They dropped the bomb, cleared out the land, said it was freedom, said it was planned. Now there's neon lights where homes used to stand. The past is gone, don't you understand? They blew up Gaza, built a shopping mall. No more Palestine, just casinos real tall. Came in with a wrecking ball. They blew up Gaza for a shopping mall. The olive trees, the ancient stones, buried beneath designer cologne.
Welcome everybody, this is NEUROPA.
The children played a paradise lost, but profits are made. They blew up Gaza, built a shopping mall. No more Palestine, just casinos real tall. Turned every ruin to a luxury hall. They blew up Gaza, built a shopping mall. Jackpots flashing, the tourists cheer. But
did you know that the first Super Bowl show,
do you hear?
they had a jetpack demonstration?
No more prayers, no
In the year 1935, or when was that?
No, it was like 58, 60,
there's something before as they
57, 67, 67.
Gaza built a shopping mall, and no one remembers at all.
It's a beautiful song. Hey everybody, how's it going?
Welcome everyone, thank you for holding out. I hope you all be having a good time, and we're happy to resume NEUROPA.
Europa. We got a cool bunch of things to talk about today. The Pepsi lady from in India who talks about GMO, Dr. Vandana Shiva. A couple things here that we'll go into, but really quickly, I wanted to say a couple funny things. You saw this, right? The federal government, we're supposed to fire people as quickly as possible, and they're like, well, we can't. The fastest we could fire people is 10,000 people at a time, because all of the retirement processing and the employment of the government is done by paper. There's no digital copy of
Are
it.
you kidding me?
And it's all underground.
In the Mormon base, or what?
Yeah, well, I thought so, but it's actually supposedly in Pennsylvania. So, I mean, you'd think it would be, though. I feel like they must have been involved somehow. But no, it seems like the Mormons are the good guys, because like that kid, we looked at this before, Luke Ferritor, this kid, and he's got this sword. I could be wrong, but you see him moving around, and you can actually see his Mormon underwear underneath his shirt. I mean, okay, he's the guy who's trying to fix the government, but yeah, so they can only process so many things because it's all on paper, and they're gonna have to deal with it. Doge is gonna have to fully replace all of this. And I just wanted to point out, oh yeah, and also best reboot ever, I think.
Well,
is
just one sentence. I guess it's finally, when they're already doing that, it would be time to move the entire payroll and of course the entire budget, ideally including whatever black ops they have and special access projects to the blockchain, public, right? That's the only one thing where I'm like, full transparency and no anonymity, for government official and, related businesses. I'm all for it.
every autist would be able to look up exactly where they're like, hey, what was this transaction? What was this exchange? And they'd be able to point them out of the woodwork. Storm crossed with Rogue. Tulsi Gabbard's become the director of national intelligence, and she dressed the part. I mean, that's cool. But then, okay, the Democrats, House Democrats said no one voted for eliminating the Department of Education to pay for tax cuts and billionaires. No one voted for cuts to Social Security that Tesla could continue to pay zero in federal taxes. No one voted for Elon Musk, to which I was like, well, I did. But there's a lot of other people that are saying, well, to be fair, maybe they didn't, but who cares? Because we wanted that. And the I didn't elect him starter pack of the Democratic Party. Let me show you. Because that's just exactly what they do. Who elected, where was this one? Who voted for Kamala in the primary? You want to remind me how that went down?
All right. No one, I think. No.
Oh, that's right. I'll give you a clue. If it's the Democrats, nobody voted for it. That's just fun fact. Fun fact. Nobody voted for it if it was Democrats. The DNC, nobody voted for it. Their policies, never voted for. The people who run it didn't vote for
I
it.
mean, I have to look it up again, but sometimes I'm receiving, how should I say, I guess Badlands media related info. And there appears to be even some sort of conspiracy of Trump hinting at the possibility, or however you would call it, that even the last election was kind of fraudulent. So his own election, kind of. I don't
Hinting,
know
eh?
exactly how that all fits together yet. But I'm almost wondering if maybe it's time for the veneer to come down and officially announce, well, guys, don't you know, basically all elections in relevant countries never really have been, completely untampered with in any way, shape, or form, and there is always selection. And
Yeah, I mean, well, I think it's interesting that Trump lost, arguably, in the second election with more votes than ever counted in American history, like 75
which
million
one
votes.
are you talking about now?
The 2020 election. So I say you won all three elections. It's 2025. You can say you're trans, even if you're not. You might as well be able to say that Trump won the election.
The only reason why I wouldn't want to say it is because now it would be the popular thing to say, and the government
Yeah,
supported thing to say, right? But other than
true.
that, I mean, just in
Yeah.
terms of what it looks
Party
like
line.
or what the likely sentiment would be, I would also totally assume that by actual legal people, let's say, that were eligible to vote and went there and dropped in the ballot, or what their intention was when they clicked on the thing, because we've seen enough examples where you click on it and then the other thing gets selected, right?
Yeah, there's a multi-million
It
vote
would be
gap.
insane if it would have been Democrats, even just because of how
It's
they
it's not even it's not even about like that. It's even bigger than that. It's that there were so many votes. There's multi-millions of votes that were counted in 2020 that they just couldn't. Why didn't they vote in 2024? Like so many millions and millions of people. And I'm sure you're going to say, oh, well, it's of course, obviously that they died of COVID. Like what's the excuse that we have 20 million or something votes less? 20 million votes. Joe Biden won 20 million votes more in 2020 election than Kamala Harris did in the 2024 race. There's emotional ways that you can say, oh, well, they didn't like her as much, but people were pushing so much harder for Kamala than they were for Biden. And they just couldn't get people to care. And the idea that that many people voted against Trump, I don't know. It's possible. Like I need to talk to more psychoanalysts about how likely they think it is that you could provoke the entire public with COVID and quarantine and nightmarish circumstances to vote against the nightmare that is your president. I can see how they could get people to do that, but just from sheer numbers, it's virtually impossible that there wasn't corruption in the last election, and it's improbable that there's ever been an election that didn't have some corruption. This just looks like so much more gross corruption than you've ever seen before. It's a bigger amount of corruption than we've ever seen before. More than
it's
Keith,
huge.
It's the most corruption. It's the greatest example of corruption. The greatest. But yeah, there's so many more votes that you have to say, did they not just okay, let's let them cheat this time? Because think about all the names and faces they get to replace in 2025. It's crazy. Changing the CIA head, changing the director of national intelligence, changing the health minister, and then let's remember Doge, because people keep saying nobody voted for Doge. Well, how did Doge happen? I just really quickly want to go over that. That Doge was created by Obama, right? Do you know that? Did you know?
Oh,
So basically,
you're breaking up a little bit, Andreas.
I'm sorry.
Maybe refresh your Wi-Fi.
Is it working now? I'm on 5G.
Yeah, you're back, but you're still a little bit garbled.
This is terrible. Oh, do I have? Oh, I know why. I need to stop torrenting. Yeah, that's how old I am. I still torrent. All right, United States Digital Services. Have you heard of this? Have you seen this? Have you heard about this? So, who start? You got the point.
Obama. Everything is still refreshing on my end. and I'm
You
not
can't.
torrenting.
You can't even see me. This is
Wait,
terrible.
no. It's
Okay.
okay. Now, let's
Did
go
you
now.
get my point that Obama started Doge? The Doge department was started by Obama. Did you know that?
Like the predecessor or whatever? I didn't know.
United States Digital Services was the name of it. Trump just changed its name to Doge, but it was originally called United States
Right.
Digital Service.
I heard
And
something along those lines. Yeah.
August 11th, 2014, Barack Obama provided consultation services to federal agencies on information technology. See, this was used, I would imagine, to create a bunch of pockets for money laundering. This is why they were able to steal $1 trillion or $2 trillion, I think it was, in this period of time because of this, because of Doge. It's really amazing. So it's kind of cool that they've created the Department of Service Temporary Organization.
Wait. This is interesting now. What is this symbol? Why is there two? Wait, I'm even having to check on my thing now. What I changed back again?
Because it's
Why
McDuck. Well,
no, but why is the S? No, just briefly. Why does the S have two lines? Isn't the official symbol now one?
No, you're talking about the peso. So the peso. Oh, come on. The peso.
Well,
show us a symbol, man.
I got only one. This is only one on my keyboard, unless I'm blind.
Mexican peso. Show us the symbol. Oh my gosh. I'm going to make sure I have moderate search on too, just because you type in the word Mexican, you never know what's going to happen. So the Philippine peso is a double line through a P. The Mexican peso has a line through the S, and the dollar has two lines. Dollar symbol. See the double. I guess some people look at it like a single line, but this is really two lines too anyway. But yeah, it's always been two lines for the American dollar. Why am I having such a hard time sharing my screen? Sorry. Here's the double S, single S. People actually do use the single line sometimes, but that's wrong. The single line is for the peso. So maybe we can look it up here, what it says here. They just use a single line for online reasons. That might be why you're so used to seeing it that way. Dollar sign of the peso sign, double.
I'll take it.
The explicitly double barred sign is called the cifrão. I guess is the Portuguese symbol for their money. So the race, right? The race. There.
Nice. So just as we're on topic, before we start with all the links that I got, I sent you two things in the, I want to say super chat, no, in the private chat. Maybe start with the Trump one, and we just briefly listen in for a minute. This is literally, I think, the best W, how you call it, DJ Tay impersonation I ever heard. Just listen to it for a minute if we can.
It's really sad, but no, I don't want anybody to be angry, right? We signed a little thing over here, and we have all these protests in California of these people that want to go back to Mexico, and that's what we're doing. We're sending them back, right? That's what we have to do.
Well, they must
I think it's
go. They keep carrying those flags around,
It's interesting. It's interesting. They've got a lot of support for their country, but they don't want to go back. I wonder why. Why. But
what about a program that we could, give them all maybe for just a fraction of what we've saved now from what Elon's done with these Doge findings? We could give each one of them a compass and tell them how to go south.
Right. Well, I think we can do that, but we have to get a little smarter, right? A little smarter with the people. And we're doing a great job, actually, by the way. I don't know if you know this, but we're doing a fantastic job with Elon and a lot of other great people.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to do something so great for our country. We're going to cut back on costs. We're going to cut back on a lot of things. And as you know, we fixed California with the water problem, right? The water problem.
When are you going to hit Flint?
What they need to do is they need to drop people out of helicopters. But, because it's YouTube, they should be wearing parachutes that automatically open, and we should have backpacks that they come with, like a prison lunch. There should be like a cold bologna sandwich, a little carton of milk, and we just drop them off. We just drop them off over their former country, and if their former country won't take them back, then we have a real opportunity, because then we could drop them over undiscovered territories and chartered lands and have them colonize it for us like Australians.
Yeah, drop them somewhere like a few 100 kilometers deep into whatever Antarctica is. Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what we should be
with
doing.
like a portable heater or something.
Yeah.
Running
Yeah,
on
I mean,
nuclear
like-
power.
Yeah, we don't want them to die before they're useful, but you know what I mean? Like, there should be some benefit to their existence.
I would say very soon. I would say
hope
very
so.
soon.
Yeah.
I'm
I think we're gonna-
a former Michiganian myself, and I live not far from Flint, maybe within 30 to 40 minutes of it.
What would Doge find if they audited you, Mr. President?
Oh Lord.
I don't know if they'll do that.
Might get kind of.
I don't think they're gonna do that.
All right. Is that pretty
Anyhow,
much
I
it, or
think-
you want more?
No, it's good. I just wanted to show I was like really impressive, and the guy apparently really sticks to the talking points. So he's not only very good in impersonating, I assume impersonating, how do you know, right? The accentuation and pronunciation, and also the proper words, the proper sentence structure, and also in terms of content. So props to this guy, whoever he is exactly. But I think he's doing a great job, and apparently hopping around on different panels, talking to people. I think it's kind of fun. Yeah.
He does the drum. He makes the drum voice. Yeah, exactly. Who's
And
this
the other
guy?
thing, yeah, who is this guy? Well, you should know who this is.
Oh, Donut. What's up, bro?
And I just wanted to, show that he, I think, did a pretty cool analysis on the super owl, and apparently also has like an extended 4-hour stream on his Patreon or something. But even just watching this, I think pretty cool. And if you scroll forward a bit, there is like one scene which is quite obvious, where you see the guys. Yeah, of course he's making all the connections, but one thing where you see the stage, I believe, where they are talking as journalists. Well, this is the stage, of course.
Wow, it's the world.
What I mean is when you see the journalists
in North America and Australia, across Africa.
Right, good point.
Dude, weird. What a weird stage. Okay, where did you want me to go? How far should I look?
Unfortunately, I don't know exactly where it is. Somewhere, I believe you. All right, back a little bit, where you could see the journalists sitting. They are sitting not really on the stage, but like on their stage. And the ayahuasca is also something I wanted to bring up. Yeah, here. So this is just a nice symbolic picture once it loads. Yeah, okay. Because what you can see, obviously, is you have, the 3 steps for the 3 levels of masonry. You have the checkerboard floor. Someone has to translate what Jeep halftime would mean exactly. But anyways, left and right, you have the 2 pillars. And right on top of them, you have Fox, which understandably in basic numerology is 666. So it's like the perfect setup. Even in this case, the pillars are purple, highest frequency. Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to bring up or ask about, because I'm a little bit confused by it. So I've brought up earlier that even Joe Rogan Experience has potentially strange, we'll go into this a bit later actually, funding from, MAPS, this multidisciplinary committee for like psychedelic research basically. And what Donut brings up here, and which many big time pundits and rappers and actors seem to be relaying for a few years now, is basically telling everyone, oh, go take mushrooms, go drink ayahuasca. Donut relates this to the Mithra cult as a fertility cult. And my issue is generally, like from my experience, but everyone has their own, with these particular substances in a limited way, was quite, liberating, revealing, and positive. So I'm kind of wondering why they want to funnel everyone into like doing ayahuasca now or something, or doing mushrooms, because generally I would see that more as a thing that would bring you more towards non-conformity, but maybe only if you already have some kind of a stable, I don't know what exactly. I don't even want to say identity, but rationale. I'm not sure how to say, like some solidification within your inner being, and not just being thrown into it, because of course then you would only be confused most likely, and maybe easier to control. But it doesn't exactly make sense to me why these guys would like low-key promote mushrooms and ayahuasca to the general population, what is the goal and the purpose here? I don't exactly get it, unless they expect everyone to join some crazy sects, which also exist, of course, or only go to the crazy shamans that try to etherically consume your energy or something. But like as a general recommendation, I don't see how this fits, except maybe as more order out of chaos or something. What's your view on that?
I mean, it is interesting that I was like wondering which celebrities would be murdered for Super Bowl, and there just wasn't that many reports this year. So maybe Super Bowl's a little different. I mean, Trump specifically oversaw Super Bowl this year. Like he was there. I don't think he cared so much about the football game so much as the superb owl and keeping it from being a human sacrifice event. I mean, maybe, but it seems really interesting. The same thing with Taylor Swift losing, her team losing and everything after they cheated so hard to get there, and other teams even, cheated to let them get there. It was pretty much people were convinced that the Chiefs had cheated their way to the top and that other teams had helped them do it because it was all part of some plan, because they knew that Taylor Swift and the Chiefs somehow was going to make football, as popular as it could be under a DNC presidency. And now that it's Trump, it's like, well, now it's actually American Super Bowl again. So I don't know. I mean, but it did feel like kind of a battle, but it does always feel like an occult battle between two sides.
Oh yeah, I mean, actually, that would be a fun thing if it is true. Also, what David Ewing Jr. says, that even higher up there's two levels or two opposing forces. It would be kind of fun if they then play it out, even if it's a completely fudged game. But just to put it on a stage for everyone to see. But yeah, aside from that, I agree with what Memory Man is saying. I'm showing it again briefly. If your vibe is low, you don't have some kind of guide, tripping is very dangerous. Completely agreed, of course. And I have a very strange subjective approach to this, so definitely nothing to generalize what I say about that topic. Okay, cool. I think we can actually start with the list, if you like.
Okay, sure. And here's autopoiesis. Here's from the 325. Holy smokes. So we can start with the top link here.
Exactly. So this one just came up to me because, as you guys know by now, I'm subscribed to this first post, who love showing all the SpaceX and NASA launches and so on. But also what they do sometimes is show Indian politics, because it's like a pretty big Indian channel. But don't you worry, also they get a few hundred max for something live. And I think this in particular, almost nobody was really watching. How many views does it have now? I'd be curious to see if you can scroll down.
23,000.
Okay, now it's quite a few views. And even maybe it's on repeat, but anyhow, this lady is kind of sympathetic, I think, the way she talks. But the main thing I want to bring up, as it says in the guy smiling, and always what they do when they approve, they do like this, so you hear it like rumbling like this in the background all the time. Of course, it's Modi, so I guess almost everyone agrees. The cool thing is, as you see on the right-hand side, no income tax payable up to income for the first 12 lakh, which is about $12,000. And I find this pretty curious, because this would be similar to the amount in Austria, for example, which generally would be a much higher income or more wealthy state than India. But also, I'm aware that many people in India actually do not pay any taxes at all. So it may as well be that they kind of do that, to lure people into the taxation system. And they also extended the allowed period for reporting to like 4 years or something. And they even have an approach along the lines of basically trust first and only then verify, or something like this. So kind of like the reverse thing of how, maybe the Western, more tightened up New World Order, now I said the word, we're gonna get the tag, sorry, would do it. And I just found that curious, and I was like, wow, that seems pretty advanced, that they actually let small businesses kind of off the hook, so people can start something, right? Because generally in Western countries, the way I see it, in most states, it's not exactly conducive to bootstrapping your own business if you don't have funding from Silicon Valley or whatever else, or government contracts. It's not exactly easy, especially in Austria and in Germany. The taxes are insanely high, and the forced commercial chamber subscriptions you need to have in Austria, for example, or the forced health payments you need to do pretty early, is usually breaking so many businesses back because they just can't hold up with it. And then at the same time, of course, you wonder what is all these medical things and so on spent on. Well, we've seen some of that. I don't necessarily approve, but yeah, I just thought like, oh, this looks kind of advanced. And along these lines, then I came across Vandana Shiva, which I'm sure you have heard about before.
Yeah.
She honestly seems pretty based. So from everything I heard in this particular interview, I pretty much agree. She's talking about, you know, the seeds and Monsanto and basically how to support local farmers, and also apparently that many farmers in India literally committed suicide even just recently because they're having such a hard time. So yeah, I think something really interesting to look into if anyone's interested in organic farming or anything like this. She even claims that the farming techniques in India are quite advanced. Like they use the law of return, as she calls it, in terms of always giving something back to the soil, not completely depleting it.
Well, she
Many
did
other
work.
cool ideas.
She did work for the Baraba Atomic Research Center, and after doing nuclear physics, ended up in Canada, and then she studied philosophy, social democratic philosophy, political science, political philosophy in Canada. And so I've never been, and she's a big part of the green, like the international NGO green movement. So I've never been like a huge fan of her. I mean, I know I should think of her as one of the better actors in that game, you know, because she's pushing
Right.
for organics, and she's pushing for, you know, the acceptance of biopiracy, even because of the idea that like your grains are going to be genetically modified and owned by other intellectual property. But I think that's something that a lot of nations are worried about. Like if their grain supply ends up owned by an international globalist American military industrial contractor like Monsanto, then that's a problem for a lot of other countries, and a lot, not just the farmers that they're paying the taxes to the country, right? So the country itself starts to worry. So, I mean, maybe she's cool. She did have a steering committee for the Indigenous People Campaign against the WTO, the World Trade Organization. So that's kind of cool. But she's a counselor for the World Future Council, which is that, you know, the German WFC, which this is the third or fourth time we've made a wrestling an acronym by accident. I mean, because you brought up NWO, and I was thinking about the New World Wrestling, but there's also the WCW and the WFC. I mean, there's just so many wrestling jokes that you could make about the, you know, about this. Did you know this in the late 90s? All the wrestling leagues merged together and then they became the New World Order, NWO.
I was recently researching something along those lines, and I was like, I mean, what is this?
You
What a
need
big
to watch.
surprise.
You
Yeah.
need to watch at least the like challenging conversations and know the soap opera dramas of wrestling, because I think that especially was one of the major places that the conspiracies or the agendas were publicked through wrestling, because you often would have a wrestling hero representing an ideology or agenda, right? Like you had the Shaw wrestling against Andre the Giant, right? You know, you have Mr. T. So there's some reasons that you should probably pay attention to the wrestling puns and everything. But okay, so just wanted to say that she's probably not that bad for at least
Hulk
supporting
Hogan,
seeds.
HH. You know, not gonna go further down that line, but just
You go right ahead. That's the thing. There's like some weird stuff about wrestling, man. I don't know. It's crazy. But okay, so you know, just I'm not saying that she's the evilest, most evil person, because at least she like exposes a lot of the other evil
Yeah,
people.
and actually,
But she's
I was
pretty
only
famous, and that's
I was
suspicious.
only hoping for you to push back on this, because I was like, everything she said in that particular interview at least seems
Go ahead.
very based, and I can
Yeah.
hardly believe that she would be so popular if she wasn't part of the game or some games somewhere.
Well, I just want to remind people that it's like the most elite, intellectual, rich people that afford organics and push organics super hard. Not that you shouldn't be for organics, but just you can't just assume that these are good guys because they are pushing for organic food. Like that almost comes part and parcel. Like, you know, Obama wants to genetically modify you, and then Bill Gates wants to eat organic salads.
Maybe
Just
another part of the wrestling, because she's exposing Bill Gates and who wins. So yeah, here you already
Oh,
mentioned corn, so I
I
had
love
to
this
bring
one.
this up.
I like to
because
hang out with Raph and like make him watch 1940s and 50s Disney propaganda.
and by now, anyone who hasn't seen it yet, you got to check out. I think one of them maybe will come up later as well. The Man in the Moon, with Werner von
Mhm.
Braun, and just this whole series, like basically the original Disney. What is it called? I always want to say Imagination Land, Fantasyland.
Disneyland TV.
Well, Disneyland TV from the 1960s. It's about 15 episodes. I haven't watched all of them, only a few of them with Andreas. But by now, really, I'm telling everyone, go watch these if you haven't seen them yet. And when you watch them, you will feel as if you have already seen it, because it really appears, and this would also kind of confer with what David Ewing Jr. talked about in terms of recent resets and resets of ideology, that after the Second World War was kind of cleaned up in around 1960, they released all of these, very nicely, greatly animated, popularized series. And so many movies and series and media that came afterwards basically seems to be building, brick by brick, I want to say, on top of whatever they were presenting at that time. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, it's almost like seeding the new culture, basically. And
Corn
of course,
seed.
this is a little bit earlier, but maybe part of it, and why I bring it up, because Vandana
This was
Shiva,
actually propaganda during wartime, because they were trying to say like, hey, if Europe is going to fall, America is going to become this giant empire. America really wasn't exactly an empire. By World War I, Americans were super anti-expansionist, and we'd sort of decided that because of the banana republics and colonialism, brown people should not be Americans was the the logic in the 1860s. They didn't want Mexicans to be part of the United States. They already kind of kicked them out, even though we conquered Mexico. And we had control of the Philippines, and we could have made the Philippines a state, but we didn't want to do that either. So we had a certain point where it's like, okay, we don't like these people. We want to own them like slaves. But that's kind of weird to do if you're a democracy. Like, how do one group of people own another group of people? It can be done, but you have to change your education for like 20 years at least to get people used to that. So what they ended up doing is taking these places and having them controlled by oligarchs, corporations, banana republics, right? And put dictatorships in charge eventually to sort of sort them out. But this is why all of these places that would have become states in the Americas, of the American states, the United States of the Americas, they kind of became their own little places. Now, World War II comes around. We realize that Germany and all these other countries have been in South America, and then we sort of let it happen because we were, too busy, and we thought, well, we will have taxes over these places. We'd rather just have partnerships with our own American elite controlling Cuba, controlling South America,
Yeah.
right? That eventually that they realized, well, we need to do the same thing.
Here at least they still show the colored corn, I'm like, why don't we have this everywhere in all the colors? I'm sure it's a lot more nutritious, aside from also having other
Monsanto
grains.
and GMO, man. That's why.
Yeah, no, it's sad. So check this out. This is how I want to see the corn.
It's a sad film in some ways if you have that context, because here they're saying corn, we admit, could not have naturally developed on its own. We assume that man had something to do with it. So they're even in this Eurocentric time admitting that corn is some phenomenal invention that happened because of the Native American taking grass, and eventually he would take the best grass and it would evolve into an ear of corn, right? This is the long process. It originally probably looked like this, became something like that, and then eventually started to grow into actual corn stalks as things start to shrink together, the seeds and the husk and the endosperm. So this film was designed to unite American ideology and sentiment, to say, hey, we are all the Americas, and to evoke a sense of nationalism or internationalism across the Americas, saying, hey, the Americas are different than the rest of the world, and that we can
corn
win.
nationalism, nationalism.
Corny nationalism. Yeah, completely corny nationalism. That was the point of this video. And like you pointed out, it's kind of sad because they're showing the history in a lot of ways in a beautiful and almost reverent way to the Mayans and the Aztecs. But then you're reminded, if you're watching this in, not 1943, but 1963 or 1993 or 2023 or whatever, 2025, you remember that corn is the first effective genetic modified. I mean, it basically doesn't exist anymore. I mean, if you were a kid my age, you remember as a child, old people at Thanksgiving every year until they died saying, this is not what corn was. This isn't corn. When I was a kid, we had corn. Corn didn't look like this. Corn didn't taste like this. Yeah, this is cool. This big, giant white or yellow stick of corn is impressive, but it's nothing like the little sweeter kinds of hodgepodge of thousands and thousands of varieties of corn. And you go to South America, some places like Bolivia and Peru, I would still find impressive different kinds of corn. Rainbow corns, purple corns, blue corns, black corns. But even in South America, the same problem has occurred that's happened in Mexico or the United States. Monsanto genetically modified corn has sunk in, it's seeped in, it's replaced the older corn, and people even wanted to at some point. They're like, wow, look how much bigger this GMO corn is. So I should grow that. I mean, Native American Indians don't know.
Even though it only has 10% of the nutrition value, most likely, but
Yeah, so
don't want to say it, but bigger is not always better.
Aw, that was cute. Freudian, even. But yeah, I think that there's a reason why we should pay attention in this video. I like that they talk about the blood sacrifices, the blood poured on the harvest, the human sacrifices that went into making corn. I mean, this is a wild story. And did you know if you feed cows nothing but corn, it's totally great for them? Just kidding. But that was we all know this now, that the cows have holes in their guts to expand because we're feeding them so much freaking corn, and it's just cornflakes kill cows, right? But at the same time, look how happy these pigs are. Everybody loves corn. Everybody loves corn, right? And we're going to make this new high fructose corn syrup, and it's going to save millions of lives. Billions of people will be so happy that they have seed oils on their food. You can see the plan right here. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah,
And then
everyone who doesn't know, different oils have different properties, especially when heated up. And some oils are more, how should I say, probably less ideal for your health. And they are usually the ones promoted, like, I think canola and sunflower and so on is not necessarily ideal for cooking, but heavily promoted. Yeah.
Corn is a new world food, common sense. It's not good for cows. It's amazing. Sorry. Anyway, the truth, I felt like a real TV daytime news reporter just now making dad puns. So the tree of knowledge, the biological roots of human understanding. What you got?
Yeah. So this is a book I have read many years ago. I won't try to properly recount all the ideas, but basically, I think on the next link even is the wiki article on autopoiesis. This is quite a fascinating concept. So the idea of, I would say, self-organizing systems, and also how it intertwines with, I guess, neurology and biology and all these kind of things. To me, it made a lot of sense, and it kind of solidified my path in terms of going more towards natural ideas and self-organizing ideas and trying to set up systems which need as little external regulation as possible. I believe the example given here is with, I don't know what the first one is, but something like a plant or whatever that self-organizes. And the other thing would be like a factory where you have like an external thing, the factory itself, and it's like input, output. But definitely, anybody who's interested in this topic, highly recommended to read that book. Most likely you can also find it maybe by now as ebook and so on. But yeah, this concept of basically self-organization, autopoiesis, I think is quite fascinating and kind of relates back to the whole idea of organic farming, permaculture, and all of that. It says, even in the top, we can just read the first paragraph. If you go on top. So this was, by Maturana and Varela, also the book I read. So you see self and poiesis, creation, production. And now I can't read further.
One of several current theories of life refers to a system capable of producing and maintaining itself by creating its own parts. The term was introduced in the 1972 publication Autopoiesis and Cognition, the Realization of the Living by Chilean biologists Humberto Maturana and Francisco Varela to define the self-maintaining chemistry of living cells. The concept has since been applied to the field of cognition, neurobiology, systems theory, architecture, and sociology. Nicholas Luhmann briefly introduced the concept of autopoiesis to organizational theory. It was under these circumstances in which analyzed Don Quixote's dilemma of whether to follow the path of arms, praxis, action, or the path of letters, poiesis, creation, production. I understood for the first time the power of the word poiesis and invented the word that we needed, autopoiesis. This was a word without a history, a word that could directly mean what takes place in the dynamics of the autonomy proper to living systems.
Yes. So just wanted to point that out.
Let's do one more. An autopoietic machine is a machine organized, defined as a unity, as a network of processes of production, transformation, and destruction of components which, through their interactions and transformations, continuously regenerate and realize the network of processes, relations that produce them, and to constitute it, the machine, as a concrete unity in space, which the components exist by specifying the topological domain of its realization as such a network. Well, that's a complicated explanation, but yeah, parts of a system that end up producing essentially a stable system.
In any case, to me, the book was very inspiring, and I can certainly recommend everyone to check it out.
But how about milk? You just sent me to Fairlife.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll talk more about this and have another show talking about, nutrition.
I'm pretty sure I drank a Fairlife in my life. It looks like a bottle I've seen before.
Just when it came up last time and people were kind of like raving, oh, the nutrition facts look so great and so on. I'm not exactly sure if I can believe it. And generally, me at least, I'm not necessarily a fan, especially now, maybe that raw milk is, coming back or not. I still don't know where it's banned now or not. But then they come along, it's a Coca-Cola company. I mean, whoever is trusting them these days, good luck, what can I say? But it's this typical mechanistic, over-analytical understanding. Oh, I take everything apart into its pieces, then I put it back together. It gives a good statistic, and maybe it's easy to digest. But I would certainly wonder and would want to see proper studies on this, whether this is really in any way, shape, or form more healthy than regular milk, or especially raw milk, because I'll bring it up again.
What are you saying? This kind of milk being different? How? What's the difference?
Well, from what I understand, they are like compartmentalizing it and then putting it back together, if I understand.
Yeah.
Ultra filtered. And from what I understand, I mean, pasteurization, everyone look at Pasteur, my most favorite virologist in history, which is the whole heating up, which of course creates a process of killing all kinds of germs and so on, which must be necessary in the milk, for the small cows to feed on.
They flow our milk through special soft filters to concentrate the protein and calcium and to filter out most of the sugar. So the final product has less sugar than average milk.
And I mean, hooray, less sugar. But don't you think that, and then we can even discuss to what extent it's beneficial to consume animal products or not. Everyone make up your own minds about this. But the general idea of understanding something comes as a whole thing created by nature as an autopoietic thing. And then humans come along, and some are even brainwashed into believing, oh, we put it apart in a million pieces, we put it back together, we do this and that, and then we'll have a superior product. Well, are you really sure about this? I'm not so sure. So I just wanted to bring that up since we talked about it last show, but I'm sure next time on a panel, we'll get back into this, contentious topic and can talk more about this. So the next two links are the what entitled, where are we here now?
Is this wrong? This is the National Medicine
good.
Potential Innovative.
So this is what brought about the title when I thought of something. Holy smokes. So also because this is just a brief sideline. So I may have mentioned this to you in Austria only a week ago. So basically, for many years, it was perfectly legal to buy CBD. We're not as advanced as America yet, that weed is fully legal, but CBD is legal up to I believe, 0.2% THC content. And a dear friend of mine was one of even the very first in Austria that built a company on this, and also CBD oils, water soluble CBD that's highly effective and all of that. And then apparently, from my preliminary research, it seems it was not a deep state ploy, but literally a mess up where a particular trader or a shop tried to do some kind of legal action. And then the judge looked at it and was like, oh, actually, our old tobacco law from 1930 states that basically anything you can smoke is supposedly under the tobacco law, which means only certain places can sell it. And then he made a judgment. This created a precedence. And for whatever strange reason, there was no second instance, or however you call it, like check for this. And then both how do you call it? Not the Trade Commission, but in German you call it Zollamt. So, I mean, similar to the tariffs which are going on in soon in America right now, as I guess a way to get proper deals done and threaten everyone with huge tariffs. How do you call it? Like not border agency. What are they called? Whoever is deciding on tariffs and so on, and the finance ministry, they were basically surprised by this. And of course, the whole industry of every shop selling this CBD weed was equally surprised.
We
So
call them
basically
Tata, which
so
is kind of like
basically-
you have really big tatas, or like your Tata was like a sexy man. I don't know, like the Tata. That's how you remember.
So basically, they only had a few weeks to put it off the shelves, and now, trying to get contracts with the approved shops, which in Austria are called Trafik. Sounds like traffic, right? And they have the monopoly on selling tobacco. And now, at least currently, most likely, they would technically have the tobacco on anything, the monopoly on anything smokable, including potentially this CBD weed. So it's kind of, strange and hilarious that this could happen. You have such a huge state and they don't manage to do proper verifications on whether they actually want to go along with something. But some judge somewhere in Vorarlberg, which is the westernmost part of Austria, a long way from Vienna, the capital, make some kind of judgment. And a few weeks later, a whole industry has to reorganize. It's kind of hilarious.
There's the South Park where Randy Marsh starts selling marijuana and growing marijuana, and then his neighbors get their own Mexican gardeners. So all of a sudden they can grow marijuana, and there's no reason to buy his. So he has to work with the vape companies to use fertilizer to blow up people's gardens because fertilizer is so dangerous, right? So people shouldn't be able to have, it's not, so marijuana is legal at this point, but having your own garden becomes illegal because the fertilizer is so dangerous. The nitrogen in the fertilizer could explode, and there's been examples of people's gardens exploding. Right? I mean, obviously, they make it clear in South Park that the gardens are exploding because they're blowing up the gardens, but that causes people to think that gardening is so dangerous that they better buy their marijuana more safely elsewhere. And that's what's going on with all the different the dangers of growing your own food. You got to be very careful. You certainly can't just sell your own food without having it checked. Right? This is what's coming on every level. They want to make sure that if there's organic food, at least they control it, and that you're not able. I mean, if eggs are going to cost $40 for a dozen eggs, you should not be able to have your own chickens because that would just, think about what
that would cut into our profits.
It's really rude of you to even think that you could do that. All right. Well, what about this? The molecular docking. Did we look at this already? What am I even? Oh, this is from the plant. Sorry, I was zoomed in a bit. Okay. So yeah, we should definitely look at the DFT, not DTF. Freudian slip again. Okay. What about complete list of smokable herbs? This is something, I mean, at some point we should probably talk about this. I'm really curious what the truth is. Everyone's going to tell you should never smoke. Smoking is bad for you. I'll probably err on the side of saying something like that as well. But when you look into how many cultures have been smoking things like ginger, not just hemp, but hops and jasmine and canna and what was that weird one? Bay bean, bay flower? Bay bean. Mexican babying, which I mean, I just call it babying because once you call it Mexican, then you know that's why marijuana was illegal. As soon as they started calling marijuana Mexican, then
Well, it's
people
now the Gulf of America, so it's American baby.
African dream herb. Like you really should just call it the white man's dream herb so that it can become over the counter and legal, right? Call it like, Clyde's dream herb or like Jeff's herb or something like that. I mean, then you'll be fine. But the moment they start racializing your plants' names, they know that some racist farmer or some mom somewhere is going to be like, I don't want my baby smoking African dream herb, right? But if it just said like lesbian dream herb or feminist,
Yeah.
like little girl's dream herb, they would put it in your freaking, they put it in your
Feminist
team.
dreamer. Yeah, it's better than slicing up some how do you call it, cockroaches into your food without letting you know. But it's just hilarious with so many of these plants, whereas in certain cultures they may be perfectly regular in usage and accepted, and then in westernized countries we pretend as if it's the most dangerous thing to even touch it. So for example, in Austria you can buy, I guess, quite a selection of those legally, but many of
Calendula,
them,
or AKA Kevin's herb. We're gonna call it Kevin's herb from now on.
but many of them, potentially also because of the tobacco laws in Austria, are never sold to be smoked. They're maximum sold as a tea, or they are sold like as an exhibition object or whatever. Yeah.
Why are they telling you to smoke catnip but never on its own? That makes me curious. Like, why should you never smoke catnip on its own? And then also, why should you smoke it at all? I mean, I got to know more about that. Doesn't mean I'm going to smoke it. Chrysanthemums. This is interesting because for a while, George Bush Sr. was telling people in South America that instead of growing cocaine, he wanted them to grow chrysanthemum, which is like, have you ever tried to get a stripper up to your room with a chrysanthemum? Like it's not as good as cocaine. Like it's not as effective.
Well, I heard that cocaine actually is the trick that the prostitutes use if they actually don't really want to engage with you, especially if they don't have Viagra with you. Then they're like, well, here you go. You just spent $200. You snorted $10 and, have a nice hour sitting around.
Smart girl. What am I going to say? So Exodus 30, 22 through 25, the holy anointing oil. Here we are talking about cannabis right here on the show. We got the New King James Version. Let's just go to the original King James Version, or do you want New King James?
Well, you choose.
Or what? Well, we'll do the original King James Version. It doesn't matter. Moreover, the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, take thou also unto thee principal spices of pure myrrh 500 shekels, and of sweet cinnamon half so much, even 250 shekels, and of sweet calamus 250 shekels, and of cassia 500 shekels, and after the shekel the sanctuary, and of the oil olive and hin, and thou shalt make it a oil of holy appointment, an appointment compound after the art of the apothecary, it shall be the anointing oil. Well, they changed the definition of calamus several times. So let's see here if I can find another version that says sweet cinnamon, fragrant cane, cinnamon blossom, sanctuary shekel. They really don't want you to see what calamus could mean, do they? Was it better in the New King James Version?
I'm not sure. I just thought of this when I was looking up this herb list, and I was like, oh, isn't there something about this in the Bible about that oil? So
yeah, this is the cannabis oil. So calamus is cannabis. So let's see. If you type in Exodus 30 up here, cannabis, you can see the NIV version calls it calamus as well. Yeah, calamus. And what's calamus? Agorus calamus, species of psychoactive acacia. Isn't that right? This is the acacia one. Or Acorus, Acoracea. I don't know. This is no clinical evidence of safety or efficacy, may be toxic if ingested, so it's been commercially banned in the United States. And yet you've seen this flower. You've seen this flower before. But so there's this one, and then so Exodus 30 cannabis Bible. Where's the deal here? False claim. Cannabism does not refer to marijuana. Well, that's what Christians will tell you, but come on.
Gotta love the fact checkers.
I mean, it's called cannabism, bro. What do you want? Let's look up anybody. Wow. Wagenknecht. What's she gonna have to do with cannabis oil? But there's definitely, I mean, whether or not Baptist Christians in the 90s could handle the fact that cannabism is cannabis or not has nothing to do with it. The point is, other people definitely thought so recently and thousands of years ago. You have churches that accept that the holy oil had cannabis in it. You have them in Hawaii today, Los Angeles, Germany. There's one in Minnesota. There's also the original word therapy. Therapy comes from the Therapeutica, which were a group of Christians in Egypt, Coptic Christians, that believed cannabis was in the oil. And the Ordo Templo Orientis, the OTO, they have their own holy oil, although this is a more sexualized oil. But I believe that they accepted that it had drugs in it as well. So a lot of these groups took it as a sort of accepted fact that cannabis was in the Exodus oil. The Jews are not supposed to share the oil. Jesus was sharing the oil. This is why the Therapeutica said that this idea of that letting everyone be a messianic age, because messianic means anointed. Messiah means anointed one, right? So you're anointing them with the holy anointing oil.
Yeah, it's not as if anyone doesn't have an endocannabinoid system, and that it has been shown even in studies that this is highly effective for certain types of ailments, whereas the pharmakeia would have you dependent on overpriced drugs, which are merely a treatment and never a cure. Just to have that pointed out to any Christians out there or anyone who likes the Bible.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the Bible, it's a religion. Religion's about beliefs. And so you can show someone as much evidence as you want, but if they're a religious person, they could just say, well, I don't believe that. And you know what? More power to them. But yeah, it's pretty real, bro. It's pretty real. I mean, even if you don't care about the marijuana leaves in the this beautiful golden mosaic here, you have to remember at least Jesus is a mushroom in most of these pictures for a reason, right? Like there's something about the mushroom and the cannabis in Christianity. And that's the immortality key. And you know all this. What does the Bible teach about marijuana? It's awesome. That's what it teaches, just short stories. So let's go down a little bit. We saw the grain that built the hemisphere, Fairlife, Milk, Exodus. Let's talk about June 19th. So Juneteenth.
So you had brought this up, I believe, at some point. It's about, of course, the Code 19. And basically, I want you to tell me what this is even about and why it's on June the 19th. Is it like the most important American holiday or something along those lines?
Oh, yeah, definitely the most important. No.
Okay, for a Democrat voter. Why explain?
For like 6 people in the country, it's the most important thing. Let's see. Celebrating traditions, Juneteenth 19, celebrated on the 3rd Saturday in June. I think it has to do with the Emancipation Proclamation happening on, yeah, exactly. Proclamation 95, which happened on January 1st. Because of some reason, that's June 19th.
During the American Civil War. Oh, I see.
So during the Civil War, they say right at the end of the Civil War. I mean, I don't think anybody ever celebrated this holiday. I mean, I'm sure it's possible that somebody was celebrating June 19th in 1860. The Black Seminoles, Dia de los Negros on June 19 is a Mexican holiday that the Black Seminoles have. And many British colonies celebrate Emancipation Day on August 1st. August 31st is the People of African Descent Day. Yeah, I don't know. History. September 22nd, 1862, Emancipation Proclamation will go into effect January 1st, 1663, promising freedom. The enforcement of the Emancipation Proclamation had been slow and inconsistent there prior to Granger's order. So in June 19th, 1865, 2 years later, 900 days after the Emancipation Proclamation went into effect. That's an interesting figure. 900. 71 days after Robert E. Lee surrendered to the Union on April 9th, 24 days after the disbanding of the Confederate military. Dude, why? Why are they being so specific about how many numbered days there are? This feels like a David Ewing Jr. video, just reading it. Like, who cares that it was 24 days, 24 days, or 900 days, except for esotericists and numerologists. Disbanding the Confederate military department covering Texas on May 26, 1865. So, yeah, they basically made up this holiday, and they said that it started in 1865. I mean, anybody black who knows this is true, let me know, because I haven't heard too many people say that their families were celebrating June 19th, 100 years ago. Like, I don't know anybody who said that their grandparents were like, happy June 19th. Like, if anybody had like an uncle, a great grandma, somebody who would just like anything, would they drink on June 19th? Like something, give me some example that says that this was a real thing. But I can't find any.
Well, I'm glad I introduced it in the proper way. The next two links are just about, Trump and his press conferences. I'm sure you've already covered this. I'll be back in 2 minutes
Dude.
while you talk about this.
I mean, all I want to say about that is like Trump's conferences are, you know what? I'll wait for my boy to get back. But I'll just say that I've been watching White House. I'm subscribed. Look at it. I'm subscribed to the White House, and I get all notifications. And I like just saying White House to my TV and having it turn on to pictures of the White House, right? Because you know what? Like, I like it. I don't know. Second.
Time's an illusion, but it's true in spirit. Source beyond space and time, no need to fear it. Everything's part of some eternal plan, from beginning to end in algorithmic hands. Time's on the side. Evolutions of Christ. Universe grows, complexity's king. Humans play a hand in cosmic destiny. Butterfly effects.
Oh, you're back. Okay, hold on. Time's on my side. Okay, so point is, President Netanyahu had a guest in the White House, Trump, and Trump was telling him he was going to continue to do whatever he told him to do. No, actually, that's what you were supposed to hear, but I don't think that's exactly right. Now, it's obvious that the DNC have lost Israel, or Israel is no longer running the DNC, and they're the CIA contingency, all the enemies that were created for Israel, so that Israel had a justification for existing. They're all being run by the deep state, maybe, but the DNC is. But there's definitely a Zionism about the White House these days. If there wasn't,
Deep
if that wasn't
National Congress.
Yeah, I mean, Netanyahu said that this is Trump. He is Israel's greatest friend ever in history, the greatest friend Israel has ever had. That's what he said. So we have to accept that he's a Zionist president and etc. However, the idea that Israel would absolve itself of its guilt, that hasn't been completely clear. And if it's going to happen, it's only happening because Trump has said that we're taking Gaza. It's not going to be, it's not going to belong to Israel, which is crazy. I'm not saying this is a good or bad thing. I'm just pointing it out. Instead, I'm sure that when they went there to the podium, and you could tell as Netanyahu was speaking, he thought it was going to be that Israel gets to have the land because they already destroyed it. And America says they're going to walk these people out of Gaza. Maybe they'll be allowed back someday, but not as citizens of Gaza. And then you can see it in his face. Like, you can see it in his butt cheeks. Netanyahu's butt cheeks tighten a little bit. He's like, oh my, what is he saying? Because all of a sudden Trump starts spitballing about how America, not Israel, America is going to control Gaza. And I don't think that's what he was expecting to hear. And he wasn't very happy about it, but there's very little he can do about it because they just genocided an entire country. They paved paradise to put up a parking lot. They knocked down Gaza to put up a casino. So it's like the whole world's going to look at Israel like genociding Nazis for real. Like that's the way. I mean, we've at this point you can't even say Nazi anymore because Kanye West. I mean, you can now because I mean, like people at this point, Americans who like hip hop are buying swastika T-shirts at Super Bowl. Did you see that? You know that Kanye West had a commercial at Super Bowl to sell swastika T-shirts, right? And Americans are buying them. And yeah, it's too late. You can't be like, oh man, this reminds me of Hitler, or oh man, that's like see, I can't even use my hand, right? Because I'm drinking water. Hitler drank water. Like it's over. It's like it's killing me, this idea, because the only people that are going to be thought of as Nazis are the people that have been calling everyone else Nazis in about 4 minutes.
But it also seems super ritualistic because Kanye got banned at like 33.2 million subscribers and all of that. So it seemed like, even though he
33.
just appeared unhinged, but
And they disbanded
I think
his
it's more than that.
agency, 33 talent agency, right? Didn't he have 33 was in the name of his talent agency or whatever he was building? And he wanted a
Because
porn studio with 33 in it.
he's always like, oh, I'm an independent billionaire. You can't do anything. Somehow I don't believe that story at all, that he's an independent actor in any way, shape, or form.
It doesn't really act super independent, but like definitely it's practical, because now I feel like we were saying this, like you can't keep calling people Nazis because eventually they're going to not care anymore, or worse, they're going to be like, well, if you want me to be, or if you call me that, then I'll start identifying as that. And now you've got, gay Mexican virgins like Nick Fuentes, which may not be a virgin because he did hang out with Destiny, but the point is, and autistic rappers that are they're pushing this idea that that everyone's a Nazi, that nobody's a Nazi. It's like it's getting so confusing. It's hard to be like, well, this is what that even means,
I mean, but even in European political discussions and media reports, even for the past, 30 years or whatever, this has been deliberately watered down, because everyone always, at least, the more left wing, have easily accused anyone and everyone as being a Nazi. And that, of course, is not conducive to any honest understanding of anything. So how should I say? The wrecking ball has been a long time swinging already. And maybe now, whatever the next thing is, order out of chaos.
I'm trying to find the argument I just had with that other Austrian kid, friend of mine, who's been like on CNN now and everything. See, posts, Tobias, recent post you've seen. Where's my? I think he deleted it, which is crazy. That blows my mind. Why would he delete that post? So he had a post talking about how Hitler destroyed German democracy in 53 days, right? And it was interesting because he's trying to point out how dangerous the State Department is and how important it is to save. Wow, it's gone. Good. I think he stopped being political. Is that really happening? Good for you, bro. That's freaking. No. This is it. Or did he just delete all the comments or something like that? Or maybe, no, he just reposted it? I'm so confused. Basically, he talks about how Hitler dismantled democracy in 53 days. So, which I had to point out, Hitler's plan, right? Hitler's economic 5-year plan that saved Germany. And by 1938, Germany had and this is BBC, by the way. Germany had the lowest unemployment rate in Europe and indeed probably the world. It was better than the United States in 38, even though the United States had really damn good National Socialist employment. FDR and everything had forced America to hire with tax money just about everybody after the crash of 29. So you were digging ditches, you were melting down metals, if you were a 12-year-old boy, you were selling newspapers, or you were making state parks. Everybody was doing something, right? And Germany did the same thing. They created jobs, public works and national labor services, the RAD, which was super rad. Sorry, I had to do that. And
Reichsarbeitsdienst, I believe, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's also the new plan, right? Hitler's Minister of Economy, Dr. Schacht. How do you say it? Schacht. You like that? Established a new plan 34, the aim of getting
Dr.
Germany
Schacht.
Schacht, yeah. And then Hermann Göring to make Germany ready for war. This is where people get frustrated because they're saying, hey, Germany could have had the best economy in the world, but they were militarizing themselves. Well, yeah, I wonder why. I really wonder why Germany was militarizing itself. Could it be because they were a small democratic country surrounded by monarchies, dictatorships, oligarchies, fascist, corporatists, communists from the east. I mean, it was surrounded. It was surrounded in countries that were controlled by the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, and Stalin was controlled by both.
Although at least certain factions in the US was definitely supporting him, and as I was reminded recently, wasn't our dear mustache man even on the cover of Time magazine of 35 or something?
So is Trump.
So,
yeah. Time magazine means nothing to me, but yeah, fair enough. Economic impact by 39. Schock's plan had helped Germany's economy recover from the Great Depression. You guys know the story. The inflation was worse than Uganda. It was like Ethiopian money, and you were using 2 wheelbarrows full of money to buy a loaf of bread. That's how it started. And when 1938-39 rolled around, Germany was doing super well. They had super low inflation. Things were doing super great. There were some failures, but the failures seemed to come from the fact that they were being sabotaged at all ends by all other agencies. There was a huge national debt, but they were accumulating ways to pay off the debt, and they were refusing to pay international debts, which was smart because the debts were, wartime costs for the rest of Europe. They were completely tricked into. And the autarky wasn't completely successful because they were still importing 20% of its food and 33% of its raw materials. This is what led to Germany trying to reclaim territories that had been stolen from them, such as lands from Poland and Czechoslovakia and the South as well. Even like Austro-Slavism, the idea that the Austro-Hungarian Empire and Germany together, that would have been perfect. But then they knew that. They were like, if we can just rekindle the Austro-Hungarian Empire to an extent, that relationship has enough resources and coastline that Germany could not just survive but thrive. And this is where the collapse of Germany starts, and everyone's going to start talking about xenophobia and racism and etc. Right? That's about 39 when they and that's when they enter Poland.
And as I always like to point out, even I believe after the First World War, there was a movement in Austria where they wanted to establish Deutsch Österreich, so German Austria, and basically, how should I say, willfully annex themselves, however. And this is also something not spoken about. And what makes me wonder now is there were quite a few, at least officially, socialists involved in the, I guess, establishment of the First and Second Republic of Austria. And I'm wondering if at least part of them were agents just to ensure that there would not be reunification with Germany. I mean, by now, in the current political climate, I have to say I'm very glad that Austria is a officially independent state.
Yeah, me too.
Which it's not really, but still you have.
It's still better there than Germany. It's way better than Germany. Germany's gone to hell in a handbasket, my friend. What can I tell you? But
here we go. Yeah, Edge Corona. It even says it in Hungarian, 1 crown. Yeah,
edgy. Yeah, I know. I think we need more. We need more Hungarian than Deutsch. I'm going to be honest. I'm starting to realize it took me a while to find that truth, but. Hungarian, the point is the 5-year plan is worth studying. People should know about it. When people talk about the Nazis, they're saying you're being just like the Nazis. Well, they should know about the 5-year plan and how it worked and why people in Germany were starving to death because of World War I and these unfair debts, and how Germany turned that around. Because the idea that any country could win World War II or get that close to winning World War II, Germany got pretty close and had like better equipment and better weapons, and Germany was far more advanced. But if you have to replace Germany in your mind because you already know that Germans are efficient now because you have that lore, imagine it was Uganda, because Germany was like Uganda. There were kids being effed in the street, child pornography, mud, rape. There was no money. People were starving to death. Germany was so bad. There was not the civility in Germany that you're familiar with 100 years ago. People were, they'd been through wartime. People had lost their husbands. There was prostitution. And yeah, again, a loaf of bread costing $1 million or 1 million marks or something like that, 100,000 marks. So for that to happen and for that to lead to being the most powerful country in the world, essentially, except for the United States,
yeah, that's quite something. While Andreas is discussing.
Excuse me.
It's okay.
Just saying, it's crazy to imagine that Germany got so close to winning. You'd be surprised if you looked at it. So, Purim, the Super Bowl, Purim.
Oh yeah, this
The
is
Hebrew
just.
holiday.
I think this was sent to be my notchikette. Luckily, some of the things mentioned here did not happen. I believe some of the elements brought up here also brought up in the donut video. And, I mean, I have to say I'm kind of happy that many of the doomsday prophecies, although they all kind of seem to come to pass, but in a lot more slow motion than is often perpetrated by various sensationalist YouTube videos, let's say, because this would have hinted at even some kind of, destruction happening at the Super Bowl or whatever. Yeah, I just found it an interesting video.
Yeah, genocide in Hungary is super sad. We need to look into like why they wanted the Hungarian people wiped out and replaced. I think it's pretty obvious. They were cool, interesting people. And yeah, and how does a nation go from Uganda to Third Reich? No usury, no porn. That's all it takes. I agree with that 100%. I loved this copy of The Economy magazine. I thought it was really amazing when this came out, and I'd like to reanalyze it myself because I'm sure things have changed slightly, but it seems to kind of have a depressing conclusion, but maybe that was part of the half point of the game. Ephraim. Okay. And then here is I'll reload.
Yeah, so I just randomly came across this because I guess I was browsing Wikipedia and maybe looking at the edits of any article. And by the way, to anyone browsing Wikipedia, it can always be interesting if you find an article that's strange or whatever it is, look at the edits, because even the one edit I once contributed, many, many years ago, and even though I did basically what I did is I translated the article for the technocratic movement, come to think of it, from English to Germany, and I tried to do it pretty much verbatim as much as possible. However, by now, even though I thought like, well, if it's approved on the English Wikipedia, shouldn't it be fine for the German one as well? So I just, translated all of that. And by now, probably 5 to 0% of my edit from many years ago is still existing on that website, but you can find it in the edits still. So here I just wanted to point out, why does Wikipedia have to use exactly this type of medals for their editors? That's basically all I wanted to say. And they have two versions of books which people then put on, which may be interesting to look at. The one is called The Complete Compendium of Universal Knowledge, and the other one is called Book of Knowledge of All Kingdoms. And for internal Wikipedia editors, this is like the badge of honor which you get after achieving, I don't know how many thousands of edits and contributions. Wow. This is kind of the banner you are allowed to have on your editor profile if you've done so much work for them. So I just thought these are maybe interesting books to look at if Wikipedia editors are choosing them as their internal badge of honor.
Senior like Vanguard editor. Yeah, this is crazy.
Yeah. It goes on and on.
Oh my God. This is so clearly effed up. You got like the military awards for this is crazy. Where's the senior Vanguard editor one? I just saw that one. That was crazy. Was that it? Look at these
and there's one with the Quran code as well.
This has Egyptian stuff on a QR code.
Yeah.
This is Rosicrucian level, and then having Masonic star kind of military medallions award. What do they call that? Badges, military badges. That's crazy. Okay, well then the complete compendium of universal knowledge. I literally just found a copy of this yesterday. I have one of these in my dad's barn.
So now you're better than a Wikipedia senior ultra sentinel editor or whatever.
Oh, just now? Finally? Okay.
Yeah, because that's also one of the badges which they put on their editor sites when they have achieved something special. That's one of the books. So yeah. It's like one of these badges, basically. You're only allowed to display this on your editor profile if you're that and that high up in rank. And of course, everyone who doesn't know yet, Wikipedia technically would be an open source, thing anyone can edit. But as soon as you start to edit anything, you'll very soon find out that there is a very strong bias and leaning, and there is a power clique which basically can decide anything, and it's not open source at all, unfortunately. But yeah, it was a nice idea. as long as it lasted, maybe for the
The
first year.
monsters and the Book of Knowledge of All Kingdoms. I don't have this one.
That's
This looks
another
cool.
one which they put up as well. I wish it would contain the Book of Knowledge of All Kingdoms. I don't know. I'll still have to check it out. But that's even the higher version. So after the what's it called? Complete Compendium of Universal Knowledge. If you're even higher up, you're allowed to display the Book of Knowledge of All Kingdoms on your editor page. So maybe that's something interesting to look into.
I'll have to go to the Bavarian Library at Munich to see a copy. Creepy. Okay. All right. Addendum. Let's get to the addendum. So the Star Spangled Banner. Let's start with that. This is the U.S. anthem, 1950s. Oh, this is this
Yeah,
thing.
so-
I am convinced this is fake. I look at where
No, no.
the words
No,
are
right.
written. It just
That's the
feels like
point. Because this is the original. This was sent to me where someone said, "Oh no, it was edited afterwards." You know.
okay. Yeah.
I mean, by now, I want to see an old VHS tape recorded by some nice, I want to say, Jewish lady in 1960 or whatever, to really be sure how the original was. But this would be the version without the strange switched up letters which tell you to obey and consume. So just wanted
Which was
to point
cool
that
that
out.
someone went to all the effort to do that without getting tax dollars. But okay, you know.
It seemed pretty convincing, also, I have to say, the way
Yeah.
it was done.
Interesting.
So yeah, so just to point out, this version also exists, although this was only uploaded 2 years ago, and the other
Mhm.
one is 10 years old on YouTube. So whatever.
Fair.
Right?
And then Project Stork.
Oh yeah, and this one I wanted to bring up. I can't tell you much of the details about it, but because I had brought up the Colonel Towner Watson's, I believe she's called, or Colonel Towner in any case, and Badlands Media with Alpha Warrior. She's always doing interesting shows, and I brought up the Battelle company, and then through some chat or somewhere I saw that this Project Stork exists where also Battelle already was involved. Because by today, of course, if you go on the website of any of these big, huge conglomerates, they basically just tell you, oh, we're providing industrial services and we're so sustainable, but they won't put these things on their front page, obviously, of all the strange things that were involved in history.
Look out for Mr. Stork. Yeah.
Oh,
Pretty
even
much.
Project Grudge. That relates, actually, because I think Grudge was one of the initial UFO identification projects or classification projects, which we'll get to a little bit later as well. We'll come back to that. So yeah, just as an addendum to the last show, brief section. But let's go on, and if you want, we can focus on the bold links, because maybe otherwise we'll never get through. Let's see. Yeah, this one is important because in Exertus History Revised, everyone check it out, the most popular video on Andreas's channel, you talk about dowsing, I believe, and that your own great-grandfather or something was dowsing.
Both. My grandfather was a dowser too, a well witcher.
So please explain to us just very briefly how you can believe this is real. If it's even a Veritasium video, I believe, no? Which also has the McMoon cover up, you know?
The way I could
So-
believe it was real was the same way my grandfather did. Like my grandfather was an engineer who was successful as an engineer doing normal engineering things for Lockheed Martin and did rockets and things like that. But then, when we needed a well, we brought him out and he used a wire in his hand. He walked around and he's like, here's a spot. And then we built the well there, right? And we're on top of a mountain. So it's not like it is an extra unusual thing or unique and beneficial or special thing that he was able to find water here in a place where there's not that much access to it, and you'd had to drill super deep down if you don't find it in the right place. So he was super lucky that he had that capacity, and he had it all of his life, and my great grandfather also did it, and it's apparently something that was a skill that they were paid to do for generations, going around telling people where to find water, but also where there would be oil as opposed to water, like being able to tell the different materials underground. I think they could even tell if there was like metals in certain circumstances. So some people say dowsing. I don't know how it works really. I don't exactly understand how it works. I just know I've seen it all my life. So I kind of was grandfathered into it.
That's great. And
Well.
also many years ago, I'm not sure if it was a workshop on that in particular, but somehow related to it, what anyone can do if you have one of these, I guess, very cheap, how do you call it, clothing hangers, right?
Yeah,
Which
that's what
are
my
made of
grandfather used.
metal. Oh, really? That's great.
Yeah.
You can literally just, you have it, you untie it or whatever. You have a small part here and a larger part going from your hand. You hold it very loosely. And why I'm saying this, because I tried this myself. And literally, you walk around anywhere slowly, and you will notice, if you don't hold it too tightly, that every like 2 meters, there's even a name for this. It's a particular magnetic network, apparently all around the known surface area at least. The clothing hanger or the piece of metal, it will turn. And then you move 1 more meter, it turns back, because you kind of hold it in a way that, I want to say gravity, we can discuss about that, but whatever force, is pulling it straight. Then you
Probably
move another
magnetism.
meter and it's turning again. So yeah, anyone can verify this themselves, that there is some kind of magnetic field that's influencing something that everyone may have at home. You can verify this by yourself. And if we then assume that water or oil would have different properties, if you're skilled in that, to me, it makes perfect sense that, of course, this is a valid technique. And it's kind of hilarious or sad to me that then you have big channels coming out and be like, oh, it's all fake, it's all woo-woo, when it's something that everyone could prove by themselves very easily. So, yeah.
I love the
Misinformation.
argument about circumcision going on in the chat. You guys, so fun. So yeah, and then here's the History Revised video.
Oh,
Hey, look,
very
it's
good,
got
yes.
forgot the Trump wave in here. There's some fun memes. This one was like, I used a lot of fun memes to make this video. I would recommend that just for the memes.
Oh, this is great. And I think it's now at 150K or something.
Oh, 57. That's cool. That's lucky that people still watch this. Nice. I remember at 92. Let's keep it up, guys. If you like videos, watch this one. This is probably one of my best videos because it's like not just a live. Although I like our lives, I feel like this one was produced. It's worth time. Enjoy it. It's cool. Columbus Day, 539 BC.
A lot of cool information in here. Definitely anyone who has not seen it yet, check it out, as like a better type of primetime movie than anything you'll get on TV, with more interesting information for sure.
Yeah, they'll make puns. It's great. Okay, so then the USA drug trade. That time, ISIS produced content from a USA tent. Yeah, I saw that. That was pretty good. I mean, what do you want, man? That's where they get all their equipment. All right, we'll go down Gladio, Apple Records, John Lennon is Steve Jobs, huh? I'll go back to that one. That's interesting to me. That's the first one that pops up in my mind. Okay. Quantum mapping reveals NGO shadow network. A fractal-driven breakthrough has decoded financial ties amongst 55,000 NGOs alleging tax funds flow from Wall Street titans, Vanguard, Morgan Stanley, to groups like the Chinese Progressive Association. Unlike traditional methods, this system tracks real-time dollar movement, exposing once invisible channels, e.g., Black Voters Matters, 4 million dispersed across 50 plus subgroups. Experts call it the game changer in transparency. Now we can actually see where that money is going and how it ends up in these major clumps.
So I remember there was a study from maybe 10, 20 years ago by ETH Zurich, which is like the technical university in Switzerland, where they already, with systems theory, basically mapped out that there's about 100 entities that appear to control, legal entities that appear to control all of the economy. So it's not really something new, but it would be interesting. I don't know what exactly they're doing there. I didn't research the background yet. If this is real time.
The Yes for Minneapolis Education Fund? What? Okay.
I want to see this for the entirety of, public funding and so on. I want to see these networks live. So just like you said, every autistic or not autistic individual can look at these and then figure out who may be beholden to what power, or which apparently grassroots community organization actually is completely astroturfed by, Ford Foundation or whoever else. So I think that's an interesting advancement potentially in transparency, if it is applied to everything equally, at least again, everything that's public or where big money is being thrown around.
Put up that blockchain. I'm going to put it all on blockchain. So then drugs as weapons against us. The CIA's war on musicians and activists. So here's a documentary.
This is a pretty cool movie I stumbled across, which basically talks about how, drugs were deliberately introduced, also about what you had mentioned before, whoever had the license to produce these millions of hits of LSD and whatever else. And basically how the idea was to water down the hippie and the peace movement and basically have them all bliss out or whatever else, as not to be politically effective anymore. And of course, involving all kinds of conspiracies. I recently also heard, I have to verify this, a guy by the name called Mark Devlin, who apparently talks about this in relation to the rock era. So there are, of course, different eras, but it very much seems as if most of counterculture is either seeded or then subsumed by deep state forces. I mean, big surprise, but just good to point out. And this is really a quite interesting movie to watch. Definitely recommend it. And since John Lennon appears, I somehow stumbled across this idea, well, about John Lennon being Steve Jobs. There is a strange correlation there. And I didn't even realize that Apple Company and Apple Records, because I'm not really a Beatles fan or anything, but you have some very strange crossovers here, which are highly suspicious, to say the least. But then
I
again,
mean, that's a pretty crazy leap that Steve Jobs, who was like 17 when John Lennon was dead at like 40. Like, how old was John Lennon when he died? So, okay. John Lennon was born in like 47, 43, 40, 1940. He's born in 1940. So, 1940. And then Steve Jobs is born in 1970, 55. Okay, 55. Still, that's pretty, it's 15 years later. I mean, it's hard to imagine. I don't know. He doesn't look that much like him to me. They don't sound anything alike. Steve Jobs never kind of intimated that he could speak German. John Lennon could speak perfect German. There's a lot to John Lennon, and the idea that he became like a flower eating vegan. I just think that it's pretty clear that Steve Jobs was in the, he took acid in college. He liked the Beatles. He was obsessed with the Beatles. He wore glasses like John Lennon because of the Beatles, but I don't think that they were the same guy. I don't know. I think a lot less people are the same person than people think they do. A lot of people are convinced everyone's the same.
Maybe it's just the egregore being passed along. I just found the connection
interesting. See that.
And then so the connected things to the drugs, two things. One thing I had brought up before is this, I think, really great book. You too far ahead. AIDS, Opium, Diamonds, and Empire by Nancy Turner Banks, because this relates to this documentary, The CIA War on Musicians and Activists, because she's basically also explaining how through the drug trade, you basically have cash-based restaurants and so on. And this is then used to, in a roundabout way, amplify the stock prices of big US companies, which is a crazy thing when you hear it first, but it's kind of like crossway confirmed across at least this book and the documentary. And also what you have in the documentary is Catherine Austin Fitts, who was working as assistant secretary for housing and development in the US at some point. She's also kind of corroborating this idea, although from what I heard, she never ever dares to mention Operation Gladio, which is basically the next video by Colonel Tanner, I think Watkins is her name, where she's talking about this USAID story. So that's also definitely something interesting to check out. That would be the Rumble link on the topmost right-hand side on your browser right now. Rightmost top side. Yeah, exactly. So here we have how this fits together and how USAID basically is a front for all kinds of strange things. And also, at least briefly, we have to bring it up because it's reminding me so much right now, is young, I want to say young Sheldon, no, not young Sherlock, young Indiana Jones, right? And the episode which you showed me with Albert Schweitzer, which was, I think, quite inspiring. That's the type of Christianity I can approve of. Number one, because of all these ideas of, USAID being a front for all kinds of operations. And also because in that episode, the idea comes up for war, where the tribal chief is like, oh, you have a war in your country. How many people died? More than 2? More than 5? Oh, how can the other states support this? Because in our culture, for every person killed, we have to give them a chicken. Well, I'm pretty sure, as we spoke about earlier, after the First World War, whoever was actually ruling Germany or whatever, I'm pretty sure they didn't get any chickens in reparations or whatever else. But in our current system, it's very one way. Like you lose the war and you have to pay reparations, which you can never honestly hope to pay back. And if it was different, maybe the system would be a bit more balanced or whatever, how to say.
Yeah,
At least give people a chance to rebuild whatever they may have done, you know?
well, it's crazy and it's an interesting idea to what's it called? To make both sides pay for the damage they commit. So like you bomb Germany, you have to pay for the damage you did to Germany, and Germany bombed you, Germany has to pay for the damage it did to the Americas. That's the way the Africans did it. And I find that interesting. 2 African tribes go to war, they kill like 40 guys. They have to give like 1,000 chickens to each other back and forth, which is just, you wouldn't want to fight nearly as much if you had to pay for the amount of damage you committed. It would change the way you fought a
Yes.
war, right?
Exactly.
I'm kind
Yeah,
of
so
curious
here-
about the Turkish Hungarians. Yeah.
So this is the Magyarország.
So what you're
or
trying to tell
Hungary
me is
section.
that Turkic and Hungarian girls are hot? Because I already knew that and agreed with you. Like, that's fine. Sorry.
Yeah, especially Hungarians actually are known, and I have to agree.
She does
Hungarian
look cuter than the
females
Turkic girl, just slightly, but she does.
very often are very attractive for some reason, however that came about. And here it's kind of a twist, because while there are quite a few words which are similar, in the next links, as we'll discover, this may be superficial, similar to how they always say it's a Finno-Ugric connection. They always say Finnish and Hungarian belongs together. And while we may have certain words, and also I have to admit, I speak some Hungarian. Once in a train, like quite a few compartments back, I heard someone talking, and I felt like, are they talking Hungarian? Then I went closer, no, they were actually talking Finnish. So if you don't really hear it well, it may somehow sound similar in terms of enunciation or something, but at least in terms of vocabulary, it seems to be only a superficial connection. And here you have an interesting video, but I believe it is in German, although the title is in English. I'm not honestly sure now. But this seems to be a quite honest guy. He's like a Hungarian who's selling houses at Balaton, if anyone wants to emigrate. And he's kind of summarizing the current understanding in terms of universities and studies, to what extent these languages would relate, and also a tentative explanation to how the Hungarians arrived where they did. I won't vouch for that, especially considering what David Ewing Jr. is saying, but there may be something to it, and also, according to him here, a Scythian connection. But still, I'm not deep enough into this to give a proper perspective on it. I just wanted to point it out. Basically, the Finno-Ugric link being disproven in this video.
Nice.
Yeah, the next few links are just some more Hungarian things, just to show, yeah, old Hungarian script.
That kind of looks like Kurt, your dad.
Yeah, he's not Hungarian though.
Yeah, but he's got a great mustache. To be fair.
Yeah, that would be the Austro-Hungarian way to see it. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, what we got.
Who is the Kurok and LeBlanc?
Right. So the Kuruts I brought up before. It's kind of funny because there is also, I brought them up before, the anti-Habsburg insurgents officially in the Kingdom of Hungary in 1671 to 1711. Of course, with the alternative chronology, also this has to be called into question. But there is a word, I should know this by now, but also that some type of maize or something, you call it Kuruts. Wait 1 second. Hungarian. So I have the proper thing in front of me.
Isn't Kurats like penis in Croatian?
Yes, also.
Uši Kurats.
I mean, they may all kind of relate. Oh, Labans, exactly. That's the other thing. Yeah, there's a whole backstory about this, but here we can actually pull up this article. I'm sending it to you in private chat. Here we go. This is, of course, maybe one of these things like Serbs and Croats or whatever, and grudges that are held for a long time. I sent a new link in the private. Oh, here we are already. Great. Let's make this a little bit bigger if we can. Yeah, anyone interested in this backstory, they can check out an article like this. Again, I won't vouch for it with the alternative chronology, but it's interesting to look at. Protestant noblemen were more likely to turn against the Habsburgs, who in turn embraced counter-reformation. we all know these stories: Reformation, Counter-Reformation. And then, you had the Kuruc-Labanc opposition. And just as a joke, as an aside, one Hungarian I met, because I'm, half Hungarian and I was in Hungary, was like, oh, I'm a nice Labanc, basically. So I'm, from the other side, but I'm cool enough, right? So it's still a term being used in a fun way even today, whatever the real history is behind it. All right. And then what we have, Old Hungarian script, just to show that this supposedly exists. Again, not gonna vouch for it. But what I really wanted to show,
Wow. Interesting.
actually this is still being used in Hungary. Again, by now I can't be sure if this is real history or just, everyone gets their own backstory to solidify nationalism. But it's something to check out.
Interesting. It's a very strange looking alphabet. Kind of looks like runes, but like Slavic, Viking, Nordic kind of thing. Almost Greek. It's weird. It's like interesting. I'll have to look at the Greeks and compare it to the Hungarians and the Viking runes and see what the difference is. Whoa, there's just some. There we go. Interesting. Okay. Taino Islands.
So here maybe go on the first paragraph, so I remember why I brought this up.
Indigenous people of the Caribbean.
Oh yeah, I have no idea anymore why I brought them up. Maybe because of some relation to the seke, which I also had brought up before in the video I showed before from the guy selling houses at Balaton. He says the seke, which would be the next tab, I had brought them up before. They are considered even today like the original Hungarians, but this you're still on the wrong one. Next tab.
This one?
Yes. And also, as you've seen, and I brought this up before, you see their flag, interesting, with the star and the crescent moon. And they are mainly in the eastern part of Hungary, and also quite a few of them actually living in Transylvania, which now is Romania. And the Hungarians have, at least in the official history, a similar wound, let's say, maybe even more in active memory than Austrians, because I think Austrians today, they're happy with just being a small, irrelevant country, kind of. But Hungary, the Kingdom of Hungary, historically, in official timeline, was a lot larger than it is today. And at least there is some credence to this, because you do have a lot of people in Transylvania, some of which even you've met when you came here, Andreas, that do speak Hungarian still. And there are still very large Hungarian communities.
Yeah. Bagudabart says, yeah, the Taino were massacred by the Arawak from the south. Right? And the Arawak are the ones who Columbus first interacted with. So there's that whole thing that like he never even interacted with the indigenous people that were already conquered. But I mean, who knows who's really indigenous? Because isn't it also the idea that the Taino have more Afro-Sephardic or something? Or is that just a complete conspiracy of the Jewish trade network existing with the Taino before Columbus? Somebody get into that sometime. Okay. Also, when the stars shine, Petofi and Times, Chinese propaganda.
This I only brought up because last time I mentioned Petofi when someone asked about the mustache. And apparently they have exhibitions on him in China, of all places.
Nice,
and also,
that's cool.
Since we have a comment here of Austria being on Bosnia's neck ever since the Ottoman Empire collapsed, what is certainly true, I mean, not the everyday Austrian necessarily, but Austrian banks certainly are super active in the Balkans and all of these eastern regions, which kind of makes you wonder, or makes it look like almost as if Austria still, as if it were the Austrian Empire, holds quite a lot of sway over all or many eastern and more southern countries, even still today. So that certainly is a thing. Or even chains, like stores, drug stores or whatever, drugs in terms of cosmetic stores and all of that, and banks and other facilities are usually exported to these countries as they are getting westernized, I guess.
Yeah, true. Well, it's cool that they're trying Chinese kids to idolize Potofi. That's cool.
Yeah, for whatever reason.
I mean, can you imagine Chinese guys with giant Prussian mustaches? I mean, I can, and I like it. I'm for it. Okay, and then John Lennon and Steve Jobs. So that brings us to the
Back to
old world.
Tartaria.
Yeah,
Back to Tartaria.
back to life, back to Tartaria. It's a lot. You got a lot of links here.
Yeah, you don't need to open up all of them.
But
Please open the one above the picture, because that was a really cool interview.
Wait.
Maybe this
Where?
is
This
the
right
one.
here?
This may be the one. A century-old Masonic cult.
Yeah, that was it. Okay, so
Yeah,
this
just
is the
jump into it. This is a very interesting conversation. Basically, I mean, the guy on the left now is doing, I'm not even sure how to say it properly, like a sobriety channel, basically. He is an ex-convict, so he's doing shows with Sean Atwood, who has quite a big channel. And the individual on the right is his girlfriend, if I understand correctly, and she's an ex-Scientologist. And it's just very interesting because they both talk about being brought up in Scientology. They also talk about some relation to the Jesters, and also to what extent Jester would be like a high-level Masonic or Shrine organization. And then, to what extent they may be exclusive to each other or involved with each other. But just anyhow, anybody who is interested in a, let's say, real-life survivor story or however, this is a quite interesting interview to check out. Too much to summarize everything here, but anyone who's interested in researching cults and belief systems, definitely worth it to spend the time to listen to them.
I don't know. The Donau civilization.
Yes. So this is a video I still have to watch myself, but we brought up the Danube civilization before when I spoke about Klosterneuburg and the underground access sites with potential teleportation, 15% aluminium alloy, upper leg bones that are verified by the University of Kazan, of all places, to be humanoid but distinctively not human, all of which were found close to Vienna in this underground thing, which was excavated privately. Also, you have Dr. Kusch, whom I brought up, Unterwelten, and the government still to this day is doing everything they can to basically bury the place again with stupid excuses. And the guy there says at the excavation site, so not this guy, basically says it seems like this is related to the Danube civilization, Donau-Zivilisation. Yet Donau-Zivilisation, Danube civilization is something you will certainly not get any funding for within the European Union. It's kind of like a banned topic, even though it's a real thing, basically. So just because I had brought it up previously, I thought I have to refer to that. If anyone wants to learn more about potential, let's just say historic cultures in the European region, Danube civilization is one thing to look at, which is woefully underrepresented and deliberately hidden, it appears. Here we have Mystery of the Colosseum. This is just talking about the potential, let's say, alternative chronology about the Colosseum. These series, I don't think I've seen them yet, but anytime I want to point out history, science, or fiction channel or searches translations, basically giving an alternative account of what the Colosseum actually was. I think here maybe even purporting they may have started constructing it and it was abandoned or something like this, but certainly a different story than what they would generally tell you if you do a tour in Rome. And you have, of course, Nosovsky featured there.
Very cool. Yeah, underground as well in the old way. So Lu Xun.
Right, he came up. He was also sent to me by David Bibi, who I believe is Chinese, because he had also sent me this Petöfi article where the Chinese are celebrating the Hungarian poet. He says that it looks like this guy may have been one of the originators of modern Chinese. So yeah, just wanted to throw that out there, something to look into, because
so you
very
mean
often.
Like, what do you mean by that in terms of like Mandarin, or what do you mean?
Well, I am too uneducated to give you a proper answer to that. But basically,
well, because there's two different kinds of mainland Chinese today, Cantonese and Mandarin, and that's only the Han Chinese language. That's not even counting the old Chinese languages, the hundreds and hundreds, the 300 or so languages that used to exist are the 50 that are still spoken. 50 or 60 languages are still spoken in China. So
Maybe
But it
click
says-
on the link here where it says literary Chinese, and that maybe could give us a hint.
where
Like
do I see
New
this?
World Chinese, writing
Classical
and vernacular,
Chinese was
literally. Yes, it was almost there. Literally, literally Chinese.
literary Chinese was used for almost any formal writing in China until the early 20th century. So the old Chinese, or we're saying 5th century, which you think is probably 18th century, I'm assuming, right? Like that's the idea. Or is it supposedly old Chinese? Coexistence of literary Chinese and native languages through China, Japan, Korea, and Vietnam can be compared to the historical literary use of Latin in Europe, that of Old Church Slavonic in the Eastern Orthodox world, and that of Arabic in Persia, or that of Sanskrit. However, unlike these examples, written Chinese uses a logography of Chinese characters which are not directly tied to their pronunciation. This lack of fixed correspondence between writing and reading created a situation where later readings of classical Chinese texts were able to diverge much further from the original than occurred in the other literary traditions, adding a unique dimension to the study of literary Chinese. Okay. So because it's symbol object-oriented language, we either completely have no idea how it's pronounced because it's written, it's not Mandarin or Cantonese. It's just written Chinese, and we have to take for granted that we understand what it means when we use these symbols. There was a TED Talk I recommend a long time ago. Actually, a book a lady made. TED Talk Chinesey, right? Is it called right? Yes, lady. Chinesey. She made this app to learn how to read Chinese, and this video is a pretty good, quick breakdown if you want to understand how Chinese letters work. So you might think there's 2,000 bazillion Chinese words, right? But there's really only like 20 to 200 important things you have to learn if you want to understand how these words come together. 20,000 words, 1,000 combinations of 200 symbols made of 8 particular concepts that are essential. So a person, fire, a tree, a mountain, and you can tell what they mean if you start to think about it. There's one that's like a woman's mouth is an open mouth. Yeah. 2 of these mouths is a woman. You know, like once you start to get the psychology of Chinese, it really does matter the perspectives that you have. A crowd is 3 people, right? A person above the person, following 2 people. Big is a person with their arms stretched out. So you can start to understand how Chinese makes a personal sense. A person inside of a mouth is a prisoner, right? So these are the kinds of lessons you'd have to learn as a child in China instead of learning how to pronounce things. I mean, you still do, because there's actually different ways of pronouncing the same sound. And if you use a different inflection, it changes the word from being a profanity to being a compliment. So you have to be very careful with whether to use a rising sound or a lowering sound. But 3 trees makes a forest. Everybody knows that, right? And this logic teaches how to think. Chinese kids grow up thinking these concepts go together to make those concepts, which gives them all a pretty similar ideology. I mean, there's a difference in who you are, and things change, of course. You can't just be based on what language you're taught as a child. But yeah, no, there's a lot of effects that come from how you see the world and what you think goes together to make up concepts, right? What spell? Which one did you ask? Forest or fire? Hot fire, flames. You can see a fire. 3 fires is a flame. Hot is 2. Lucian invented the phonetic letters to Romanize the sound. The system is still used in Taiwan.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
David sent me the recommendation, so thank you for being live and commenting and correcting me and my ignorance.
Yeah, sweet. Okay, so Lucian, Chinese, early life. He phoneticized the language. Does it say that here somewhere? No, I don't see it here. But I believe you. I'll have to look into it a lot more because I don't
Only
really
on
know
the
anything about
Chinese
Lucian.
Wikipedia,
Yeah.
which you can't read.
yeah, if you know more about this, please send us information. Like if you know more about Lushun in China and Chinese history, I mean, because you have to understand in the 30s to the 50s, China completely replaced their alphabet with simplified Chinese. So Taiwan still, like you said, has old Chinese letters, and I know they use the what's it called, Pinyin or Pyongyang system. What's it called? The Chinese Pinyin. Is that right? Pinyin input method, I think is what it's called, where you use romanization, right? Here's an example where you might type she to make the sound she, and then
Oh, yeah, I
type
think
this.
I once had this for Japanese when learning Japanese. It's yeah,
I
had a similar
mean,
system.
they need this in China because they don't as much anymore, but they did for typing because you couldn't have
I
that
want to
many
see the
trees.
keyboard with 4,000 letters on it. That'd be
Well,
cool.
that's the reason why the iPhone was so important, because the iPhone and touchscreens revolutionized Chinese input. I really think that's the biggest thing that it provides, is that you can actually, write a letter and it knows what letter you're writing. So that's a huge change up. But okay, so what does chat mean? You asked this question and you had this word, Hippo.
Yeah, because there was one thing about it. This was interesting. So wait a second. We have scroll down a little bit because these are the common understandings. Right here, noun. Well, I'll read it. A small potato, such as given to swine. And I was just like, why is that related to that word? So just wanted to, no offense to anyone in chat. We appreciate
Chew
all of
the
you.
chew the
But it was
fat, chew
like,
the chat.
what? Why? How did that word, take on that meaning? And before it's a small potato given to swine. Or here, mining waste
Mining
from lead
waste,
and
lead and
zinc
zinc.
mines. Yeah, so just wanted to
or
point that out.
or a parasitic insect, a louse, a chat. Oh yeah, and I saw Mind Unveiled has a vampire video.
Yeah, so there's too many links. Basically, just show each of them for 5 seconds. We can't discuss all of it. There's just too much.
Mind Unveiled's got a video. Okay, then Aztecs from Tartary, Jared Booster's video. This looks pretty good. Aztecs from Tartary. The giant mountains. I'm always curious about Venezuela too, because Venezuela has crazy mountain ranges and everything. The Hopkins residence in San Francisco. Yeah, it's crazy to think about this, because we were talking about how they can quickly destroy a neighborhood so fast, and then they took out the Palisades in Hollywood, and nothing new here. The only difference is that I don't think anyone really cared about the Palisade houses, because they obviously were built like crap to look stupid and eco-friendly, whereas in the old days, you had these beautiful, interesting looking Victorian houses. And yes, trees were giant. There still are some giant trees in California, in my neck of the woods. But for the most part, all the ancient trees were cut down, and most of our redwoods are only about 200 years old now. About this point is as old as most of the redwood trees are. They cut down so many, and that the ones you see now are ones that they were like, wow, we really need to refill this place with redwood trees. Let's not let anyone cut these trees down for 70 years. And that started the environmentalist movement, because the loggers created the anti-logging movement. Is this our correct timeline from JT Follows JC? You want to say
This
something
was
about
also recommended to me. I can't. This is basically, some of those are just links I stumble across, and there's not enough time in a week to listen to everything.
this?
But
Right.
still seemed interesting enough to have it, just put it on the list.
Bricks is batteries storing energy in red brick.
Yeah, this is a common trope, but I think soon, next week, David Young Jr. will talk more about the bells, and maybe we'll also get to talk about this more. It's very possible, of course, here that certain tropes are flowing around which are not exactly correct. Hopefully, we'll figure out in time.
We're going to replace history with arstory. Arstory is the new history. It's not history, it's arstory. Okay, so then all about prisons, it looks like. I'll have to look at this one too. Mud flood. Oh, places that were mud flooded up, patched up. Yeah, there's a lot of that. Kind of crazy. Dickens Courthouse, listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1980. Built in 1892. Everything cool was built in 1892. You gotta admit.
That's for sure. 1850 to 1890.
Yeah, but usually over 1 year, 1891 to 1892, it was just like 1 year, and they all pop up. And then here's the Tartarian Empire origins expressed by our buddy Jay Dreamer. Sorry,
Jay Dreamer, yes. Yeah, just to show that, also, how should I say, popular channels picking up the topic, which is good.
Yeah,
more eyes on it, and hopefully more understanding, more people asking
23,000 views. It's nice.
their grandfathers and grandmothers about what they remember, if they remember anything.
Ooh, the Taiping Rebellion, or the Taiping Civil War, or the Taiping Revolution. Depends on how you want to look at it.
Yeah, so this is just, in the series of Republican revolutions starting all around Europe on 1850. Wikipedia says officially all unrelated, but basically it looks like,
They
there
all
was,
happened at the
if the
same
history
time,
is
weirdly.
correct at all, there was
Oh,
some kind of
weird.
a
Is
world
this
war,
the
basically.
which flag is this one? I mean, remember? Oh, is it Romania?
It's pretty close.
No, Romania is yellow, blue, red. So it's, what is it? Is it Venezuela? No, Venezuela is yellow, blue, red, like Romania. So let's see. Blue, yellow, red flag. Is that,
This is what I'm searching for.
yeah, is that Formosa? Is that Taiwan?
Well, blue, yellow, red.
Spain? Was it Armenia? Spain? Was it? No. Andorra. Chad. I mean Romania, blue, yellow, red, right? Am I crazy? I think that's the same as Romania, blue, yellow, red. I think so. Hold on, let me.
Yeah, it's only vertical, but I found a site. I'm sending it to you.
Yeah, but like you turn it sideways if you want. I mean, right? As long as it's the same color like sequence, not yellow, red, blue, or something like that.
Yeah,
Moldova. Hold on, you sent something in the private chat? Okay, hold on a second.
maybe a similar site to what you sent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, similar kind of situation here. Venezuela has the stars, but there's more flags there, right? Ecuador, Colombia, yellow, blue, red. Venezuela. This is later Venezuela. Okay, so maybe this was red, blue, yellow versus blue, yellow, red. So blue, yellow, red, Andorra, Chad, Romania, blue, yellow, red. I'm convinced it has to do with Romania because Romania is the settlement of the Romans. And so if you had international Romans all over the world that were trying to build their settlements, I would imagine this would be the flag that they just put for any place that they had Roman settlement. And, what does it mean to be Roman? Nothing. You're probably not Roman if you're a Roman soldier. You're probably somebody who was conscripted to this empire idea, right? So ambiguous that they're like, okay, now all of the people that were part of this military union, you're going to go to this other place. This is where we want you to retire. And to do that, you have to kill all the natives because we didn't actually clear out the area for you. Significance of the black on the German flag. Did you watch Martin Hipp's video? Check out Martin Hipp's NEUROPA on flags. We have an episode that's all about the presentation that Martin Hipp did on flags, and he talks about
Martin ist herrlich.
And if the quick answer is that it has to do with having a third of Germany's wealth stripped of it, that it owes to other states. It's under the jurisdiction of the banking cartels, right? Essentially, that's the idea.
Yeah, generally it seems, according to this theory, that black on the flag is no good.
Right.
Basically.
So Tartar City was Beijing City originally, right?
We know this. Just wanted to point it out once again.
Yeah, I have people that get really confused when you start talking about Tartaria. They're like, "Where is it? What was it?" And you're like, "Well, where wasn't it?" Everyone seems to refer to everything as Tartaria, from Hawaii to China and everything in between. So America, and I meant that the other direction. Like the whole world is everywhere to talk about it. So then the global Tartarian Empire endgame Islam with heartstones. Well, who saw that coming? So this must be like a collection of interesting things. Star Forts roundup. Yeah, I mean, Russia is building the East Tartary, Trump is building the West Tartary, and we're about to see a worldwide Tartary. I mean, is he? Hey, here's our buddy, and he's wearing a recent Tartarian shirt. Aren't you guys jealous? You could also wear a recent Tartarian shirt. That is essentially a vintage hipster thing to do now. If you're a recent Tartarian, the ancient recent Tartarian shirt. Highly recommend checking out Stellium 7's work. And then, yeah, we should probably watch this Endgame Islam video about global Tartarian Empire. Looks pretty good. Okay, and then no single birthplace of mankind, says Robert Zephyr. I know Julia just did something. Julia Glosso did something with Robert Zephyr the other day. I saw a picture of her at some convention with him. So he's saying no. Is this the title, his thesis, or is it a sarcastic thesis? What's he trying to say? They were seated everywhere? Different kinds of humans seated at the same time simultaneously? Something like that. You'll have to watch this video to find out. And then this video is unavailable because the video was made private. What do you know about that? No single birthplace. The Orient Express. Yep. I can't watch the Orient Express video. Sorry. It's been hidden. Maybe you can find another version of it if we type in the title. Let's go search for the title and see if we can find... hold on. All these flags. Close this down a bit. This, I think, is probably correct, right? Vintage option and I don't know. That video is lost. We'll have to look for it another time. Did you want to see any of the new Singularity lossless transmission, or should we pick up in, like, we could do another show tomorrow too, if you want. Now that we're at the 2-hour mark. Are there any other links you want to share? Complex Veda. Make sure people know that we did this video with Noel. Noel, we have like probably 6 decent episodes with, and we're going to do another one soon now that I'm back. So let me schedule that with Noel. I like doing shows with Noel. And if you haven't seen all of them, please do, because Noel's videos are very interesting. He is a Sanskrit master thesis, PhD student, you know, all that jazz. Knows a lot. So very practical person to talk to if you're interested in Eastern philosophies. I think he's the best source we have on the history of the Veda right now. Very, very useful guy. You're watching Andreas, watch Andreas. Yeah, isn't that meta? It's a weird vibe. Okay, you're kind of muted though over there. I don't hear you, Raph. Are you talking? Yeah, I can't hear you. Nope. It's all right. Oh, yeah, just keep going for a second. Well, I have a show in a second with Terrorist Podcast. We're about to do the APM stream. So, you know, I just wanted to make sure that we close on a decent note. We have a lot more subjects. There's, like I said, there's the NWO Singularity section, and then there's the Lossless Transmission section, and the Earth and Space section. And the Exertus Guide to Star Wars. I think that we could probably, Bragg's Mandala Effect would also be worth talking about, and music. I think we could probably do that. Would take another hour though. Like, I'd be willing to do it, but we could maybe just do that tomorrow, and then we'll move on to 8 p.m. I think that might be the best thing to do. I'm going to wait on Raph to see what he thinks about that. Let's listen to another one of my songs. Not really.
You can't hear me?
Well, now you're good. No, that worked. Okay.
All right, sorry. Random things. We're almost through. We're just going to go through the few bold links.
Okay.
So basically scroll down, please. Everyone, you know, you can check out all the links in the description and other things. No, a bit up. There's one. So yes, down.
Oh,
Here.
this one's more bold than the
Quantum.
other one. Yeah.
Yes, you can see the difference. Only those two, that's good. Right. And only the bold ones. Yes, very good. We can go through that. And here, wait, here we're going to come back in a second to this section.
Okay. Yes. Just want to do a quick, okay. All right, great. And we'll come back to these, just so NIST announces first 4 quantum resistant cryptographic
So
algorithms.
why I'm bringing this up, because there is the whole trope, as you also mentioned, that, in 5 years or whatever, the quantum computer is going to break everything. And already I've seen a fun video online claiming like quantum computing, the tech industry's longest running scam, pulling this whole thing into question. I don't have enough in-depth knowledge. I just know they've been talking about it for a long time. I'm not sure about the real capacities of it, and whether here it's, again, maybe not so much about what will actually happen, but just collecting all kinds of money and attention in another doomsday scenario. And here I just wanted to point out, apparently, if this is correct, there is even quantum cryptography resistant or quantum cryptography compliant, however, encryption mechanisms which potentially could withstand even a quantum computer. No idea if that's correct or not, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
There is, oh my God, what's it called? The safest SSH future 3-step password. Is that what it's called? Future 3-step password protection. I can't even, I'll have to look for it. But there are some ideas which are like, let's say that one person has some information, another person has some information, and they exchange that information, but there's a lock, so that the only way that they can make sure that they get it is they go to a third party who has the lock, but that lock can't open any lock except for one time. Or there's definitely effort being made to create some sort of non-singularity system. The problem with that is quantum computers can predict and try multiple things at once. So I don't know. I mean, it's possible that we're cleverer than nature itself, but not much. I feel like we have to be part of, like, that cleverness must come from nature. So I don't know. I don't see it. I kind of see that the Silicon Valley show had it, that at a certain point you reach an AI that can break any encryption, and then you just have to stop, or you have to stop encryption. Like, it's one or the other. It's the end of passwords, and therefore the end of scarcity and exchange and everything. I mean, this is going to be a harder thing to control, and because you'll be able to duplicate anything. Singularity is too close. I could be wrong though. Okay, and then so nervous system manipulation by electromagnetic field motors and monitors, or fields from monitors. Okay, the idea that like television screens and TV tubes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course, doesn't exist at all, just to show everybody again.
Right. Of course. Doesn't exist at all. Wow. A lot of information about it here. There is the Brunswick experiment, I think is the name of the. Hold on. Brunswick affair. Is that what it's called? The Brunswick affair. Watch this video at some point. It's 24 minutes long. It's a Canadian state-sponsored propaganda spoof, and it was made in the 70s or 80s. I don't remember exactly, but the idea is that, there was a television that was produced that could force people to buy products because there was some chip in the television that, when people felt the radiation from the television, it made them instantly believe what they saw on the television. And so then they would go out to the store and come
it's
home.
working. It's working.
But they were having problems where it was working too well, because someone would go to the store because they were told to buy tires, and then they would buy all the tires they could because it worked so well. They're like, wow, I really, really need all the tires there are. And just so, how could you tone it down so that it didn't work so well, so that people just sort of bought like 1 or 2 cans of dog food, but didn't like go bankrupt.
Don't
before
buy
they could buy
all
more.
the toilet paper, especially
Yeah.
if we stop supplying them for a week so everyone can go insane.
Right. Limited editions and things like that, whatever it gets you to get back on buying things. So yeah, highly interesting, very funny. This is a very funny video actually as well. It's a very Canadian, Scottish, dry humor, but it's worth your time. You should definitely watch the show. And so the Brunswick affair. Sort of like Brunswick, but Brunswick. Okay. 200 IQ man silences the interviewer.
They totally changed the title on that. The one I got is "Reality is not what you think." So I don't know why they make it more clickbaity. But what I just found interesting is the way he's describing it. He says we're living basically on the projection surface of a system. The system is God itself, and there is also a background to the system. So according to his understanding, whenever we exit the screen, which is the projections we are incorporating right now, we would most likely continue existing. However, he also includes the idea that there can be some type of condition whereas you would basically get recycled, which again reminds me, of course, of many different ancient, I don't know if they are ancient, but let's just say other mystical ideas that convey similar concepts. When I listened to it, I was like, it resonates. I can't say much more. Yeah, whether this guy has 200 IQ or not, but I found the concept was kind of interesting. Maybe you pulled up exactly the right graph there. Yeah, interesting, fun, short video to check out.
Yeah, check out Michael Knowles. Interesting guy. Catastrophic contagion. Event 201.
Another thing that doesn't exist, basically the new Event 201. I don't know when they did this, like 2 years ago or something. And again, just outlining that there was a role playing for this already. I honestly don't see how they could pull off a similar thing yet again, but just to point out that this exists. And as you can
They
see, this is
straight
like
up did a
300
live action
views.
role play of the event. Just imagine what it would be like if we had to deal with.
But that's like a new one. That's a new one. See, you
They
see,
just can't
like
control
2022.
themselves. God.
They just love LARPing, yeah.
Yeah.
All of those actors.
Good to be prepared for the next one. Yeah.
So here,
Bluetooth
don't read the title. I had brought this up before. Anybody who's confused as to what happened, with the lockdowns and the related mandatory or supposedly mandatory things, really check out this documentary. And really, everyone, again, who has an Android phone, and this is still not being brought up on any mainstream, and I still can't believe it, not even properly on big conspiracy channels, from what I can tell. You can enable developer settings on your own Android. You can enable Bluetooth low energy on your own Android, and then just, go to a Faraday cage or whatever. You will see there are no signals, and then go to your local train station in the westernized countries where they were pushing people to participating in these things, and you will see basically your phone will start lagging. I tried this myself because so many signals are showing up. And you can watch this documentary and maybe get a clue as to what's happening. This was done by, I believe, Spanish researchers. And so far, I haven't seen anyone falsify this yet. But yes, people still pretend as if nothing ever happened. I mean, good luck with that. What can I say?
Wow. Bruce Lipton, the honeymoon effect.
This is something cool. That's why I entitled this section "Lossless Transmission." It's a nice idea. There's also books about it, and I think there is something to it. He's talking about how people feel when they are in love, and that apparently there is some type of system in your body. He made great presentations. Check out Biology of Belief and related things. He was a quite renowned stem cell researcher, I guess, and I think quite a few of the theories he puts forward are interesting, to say the least. And with the honeymoon effect, the idea is how your body changes in a way that the cells, for lack of a better term right now, are able to communicate in a lossless fashion, basically through light, and how this would also, generate different feelings in your body. And he's kind of trying to explain why people feel so happy when they fall in love, and also how to potentially create a lifestyle around that you would remain in that state and not go back to, let's say, non-lossless transmission. Other things it reminds me of is monoatomic gold, where a long time ago I read a paper that supposedly having monoatomic gold in your body also creates some kind of superposition, even within your brain and so on, which is non-degradable and may also amplify your cognitive functions and so on. So certainly something interesting to check out. I haven't seen this, I only read the book, but I'm sure the basics will be explained right here. Again, I think someone interesting to check out. Oh, he's even talking about various levels here. I think he's an interesting guy. So then anyone
Walt
again
Disneyland.
Oh yeah, now here we have the man in space. All right. Let's see. Oh yeah, the one thing we have to show just briefly is the video just before that, because that was done by Jeremy Riss, alien scientist and crypto alchemist. It's on the list, but maybe you closed the list. Let's see.
Probably. Hold on a sec.
But we're almost done. So here for the Earth and Space section, basically only the ones that are in big or that are in bold. And the other ones, kindly people can check out in their own time. You can't search for it like this because it's on the top. It's the big one on the top. With big, I mean, no, scroll to the top of the section and it's the first video.
Space. Oh, okay. USA. Okay.
Yes, exactly. So here, if I summarize this correctly, basically the whole idea of the potential of UFOs also just being some kind of projections, also something called Earth lights, definitely something to look into. I think I watched most of this. It was quite an interesting presentation. Bernie also joins in later, and it's like another angle, and also reminded me of Jacques Vallée, who's put up in the links, who even long time ago put forward thesis basically of these so-called UFOs not necessarily being of a so-called extraterrestrial origins, putting forward different ideas and hypotheses about that.
Yeah, Jeremy Reese is great. I was very sad that he recently lost his Twitter page, but I guess he has a new one now, Jeremy Reese UFO. He had like 100,000 subscribers, I think, too. So it's crazy they shut him down. Crazy. I don't know what he did to upset people, but he is from Boston. So yeah, definitely let's follow him. And if you want, I'd like to get him on a show with you, Raph, if you want to do a show with Jeremy.
Definitely. So then we have, of course, Walt Disney's Man in Space. And here you maybe too far ahead. We have the Exerter's Guide to Star Wars, which the minutes I listened in, very interesting explanation of Star Wars, which is made by you, Andreas. So this is the Von Braun thing, a part of this Walt Disney original culture seeding thing. But here we're already too far ahead. So this is good. This is the Exerter's Guide to Star Wars. And then one more thing I want to show out of this section is the DEF CON thing, which is another one which I put, how do you call it, embedded on my website. Scroll up a little bit.
DEF CON 21.
Yes, with Richard Thiem. So I met Richard Thiem in, I believe, 2011. Very interesting guy, officially, like formerly a, how do you call it, a priest? I forgot of which denomination. And then the way he explained it to me, at least, is that he was writing books and he apparently has some connections to some intelligence people. And they were kind of like, well, you know, you can't really write these things. So then he switched to writing fiction. And he has one book called, not Mind War, but you will find it on his website. And basically, it's like short fiction stories. And he says, I think he told this to me or even publicly, he basically said, well, it's 95% correct from the information he understands. It's all kinds of crazy things with Neuralink-like stories and other type of stories. It's called Mind War or Mind Warp or something. And also what he co-wrote, the book I actually got here, is UFOs and Government, which is basically a collection of government reports starting from the 40s or whatever. And you have all these kinds of people involved with it because, of course, when I got into the UFO topic, I was like, well, do we have any proper documentation on this? And this entire book is only the documentation officially made by governments themselves. So that can maybe be an interesting starting point where they talk about ghost rockets and all kinds of other things. And yeah, Richard Thiem, certainly somebody interesting to listen to.
I might have to redo this video because I felt like my audio, this was like early, this was early voice stuff. I don't know, actually.
Until he is proven guilty. But let's check it out a little deeper. FMTSSH com TSITSDSL. The first line has 5 letters into words, apparently meaningless, unless, with a bit of stretching it, we read it as.
I mean, it's like AI at its earliest inception, and I feel like it could be clearer for people what's going on. Maybe the video is like hard to understand at some points for people if they're not like super aware of what's.
But are you saying your voice in there is AI?
Yeah, the whole thing. I used AI.
I don't think I even realized that at first, so that's great.
That's awesome.
Small wonder the rather prudish self-proclaimed pedant and devout Catholic, and morally reassured Tolkien hated it. Dune was intended to be made into a film by Jodorowsky. There is a fantastic documentary on the debacle which was eventually abandoned. Star Wars filled the role of Dune in science fiction and surpassed Dune in film.
Basically, yeah. I mean, it's not the worst AI. It's like early AI though. It's funny like how far we've come so quickly. It's crazy how fast things are improving. So, but yeah, I like where I want people to know what I say in that video because I think I see some interesting things, particularly about the Jews in Star Wars. How much it's about the Jedi or the Yed, and Yoda is the it's the holy Jewish rabbi, and this idea of the Sephiroth and completing the Kessel Run with Han Solomon. I think there's a lot to that aspect of Star Wars that's worth checking out. So yeah, definitely check that out if you want.
And so we have the very last section. I always have to bring it up, the Bragg's Mandela effect. And also, of course, once again, to give a shout out to Exertus Amoeba. I'm going to put his link here again.
We love Exertus Amoeba. Exertus Amoeba is our favorite channel. I like it as much as my own channel.
Exactly. So we have, I just want to give the right link here. I'm posting it in chat, everyone. Please, if you wish, follow Exertus Amoeba for the most amazing Exertus clips. Always, choosing interesting topics from all kinds of shows
Exertus
and putting
Amoeba.
them together in a really cool fashion. Yeah, the other things here is just a few more Mandela effect links. People can
check all these classics. Like. You got a classic with Fraga. Oh, that's awesome. I haven't seen Fraga in a minute. I just reached him out. He's in Portugal. We should definitely do something with him. He has a great book called Ontological Design. We'll have to talk with Fraga again at some point. He's really interesting as well. But yeah, there's some great stuff here because we've got thousands of episodes. And so here there should be dozens of clips from each episode so people can check them out. So yeah, dude, check it out. Check out the Exertus Amoeba channel. It's great. Thank you so much for making that, Jose. It's very cool.
Yes, thank you very much. And then the last few things there are just an interview with C3PO's Golden Calf, which does some very interesting synchronistic videos. It's an interview with Nachiketa. Definitely recommended to take a look at it. Nice. C3PO seems to have, of course, understandably, his own ideas. Even I'm showing up at some point.
Nice.
About what it all means, but certainly all the patterns are here, and you can make of it what you will, make your own understanding out of it. The last thing we could show is measuring the Mandela effect. That's the last link there.
Okay.
It's just kind of fun. I mean, it's 2,000 people, and God knows who was asked exactly. But you have like this animated graphic on the bottom. If you go to here, which is kind of funny. And which clearly shows that, whatever really is happening, but you do have sometimes even this kind of halfway split of people remembering different things. And again, for some of those, of course, there's explanations, but we have to be careful because the Mandela effect also brings with it some residue. So this has to be, checked against each other. But I just found it interesting that there's even a YouGov, whatever this is exactly, study actually on these questions and showing that people literally do remember different things. Even here we have Flintstones.
That's
Shazam,
ridiculous.
Shazam.
The Flintstones are ridiculous.
Luke, I am your father. That's what I would have thought. Okay, Bernstein beers. I'm not so much into it. The one that I'm,
Bernstein bears I can handle. Bernstein
is of course the Bragg's apple cider vinegar. As I recounted the story many times, it's also on the Exertus Amoeba clip over there. Yeah, and the last things, it's just a bit of music. Anyone who likes
38% say they do believe in parallel realities. 35% say they don't. No, I'm sorry. 28% say they do. 38% says not sure. That's pretty funny to me. Like as many people believe and don't believe as are unsure. Like that, it's like 1 out of 3 people. That's pretty funny.
Yes. It's a quantum state, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Andreas. Thanks, everyone.
Turn that down. Sorry. But yeah, thank you. That was great. And we have more links still, guys. So Raph and I might do something again this week or whenever you have time, Raph. Let's do the music section and a couple more.
Yeah, we also have some people to invite, so maybe we'll do that. We'll see how
True.
it goes.
Cool. You guys know it. It's your best show. It's your favorite show. It's NEUROPA with Raphael and Andreas.